Hey, Matthew, I guess we'll wait about a minute or so for people to sign in.
Yep, and we just got to wait for it to go live over here on Instagram. Always takes a
Tell me
few.
when it does, because I'm gonna pop it up on my cell phone over here so I can at least see some of the stuff that's going on.
Yep, we
Oh, I
are.
got a notification.
Yep, we're live.
Notification. Your countdown all about the Odie's All lineup is live. Oh, I can probably do it right here.
Yep, we're good to go everywhere.
Wait a second. Oh, so you're showing us live on Instagram? We got any viewers on yet?
Five, six, seven, eight, eight or nine, 10, 12.
Okay, good.
Yep, people are joining.
Okay, just bear with us, people, while we get the other followers on and a few more. And I'm going to pop up Instagram. There we go. I'm going to turn this down. All right. All right, Matthew. Good to see you on
Yeah,
Thanksgiving evening here in the United States. I guess you already had your Thanksgiving back in October, correct?
yeah, that's right. Yep. It
Good,
was,
good,
yeah, last month had it was nice though. Big turkey dinner and all the fixings. You
good,
guys do
good.
the same kind of thing down there? Or?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, big deal. Yeah, same thing. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and all of our viewers and people that tuned in. And tonight we're going to talk about the many different products in the Odie's lineup. And we get a lot of questions about it. You know, on a daily basis, we'll get people that say, "Well, what's product to use where?" And etc. We're going to try to clear up some of the confusion this evening, and we're going to explain, why I made all these different products and what their primary use is and what is their purpose. Um, what I'd like to happen though is you can ask questions, but we're probably not going to get to the questions that you're asking until we're done with our initial discussion, until we go through some of the general questions that we've already gotten and we've received. And then we'll start going through and filtering through all the Instagram, the YouTube, the Facebook, the X questions, and whatever other formats we're on as well, Pinterest, whatever we're on. Um, and we'll start try to cover everything that's relevant to this discussion. And this discussion tonight is going to mainly be about the purposes of all the different products and when you would use one and why would you want to use one, etc. And also we're gonna get into the fundamentals of what you should be starting out with, and where to begin with the Odie system if you're new to us. And then we've got a lot of advanced Odie users on as well, and we'll be able to answer questions for them as well. So this is not just for the beginner. This is for a pretty much uh, a live stream for everyone that's interested in Odies and why we do what we do. So I'm James. Those of you know me. I'm the founder and creator of the product, the founder of the company. I created the system and the oils. And that's Matthew Hurdle right there above me. I don't know if he's below me or above me all over the internet, but Matthew is head of tech support. Matthew is was a long time customer that I spent several years discussing Odies with, and Matthew and I became very close friends. And he knows so much about Odies now. He's picked my brain inside and out. That We both decided that it would be good to bring him on as our tech support guy, and he's been with us for several years now, and he is head of tech support and all things technical. They usually go through him, and if he can't answer it, then it finally filters down to me. But Matthew's pretty much able to answer any question anybody throws at him these days. He's really got it down pat, and Matthew is a fantastic woodworker. Probably the best I've ever seen. He's really an amazing artist, and I'm just so proud to have him on board. And I'm a very picky guy, and I wouldn't let anybody else in that position. I couldn't even see anybody else doing that job, to be honest with you. So I'm glad to have you here tonight, Matthew, and Thanksgiving, and thank you for being a part of the company. I just want to thank you on this Thanksgiving evening.
Yeah,
So
well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate all the kind words, and I'm super happy to be here, and I love, all the time that we spent together and the great conversations and learning about in depth the whys and hows of your product line that you
Yep.
came up with, and how it all came to be. And I love being able to reciprocate that information and teach and educate our customers and users. And I really love it. And I thought that would be a great opportunity for this live, is to kind of, have some direct messaging from the man who created the finish, and kind of go over how and why Odie's exists, and a little breakdown of all the products.
We're gonna do that, and I just want to say something else too. While we're here, I guess it's a good opportunity. The purpose of Matthew, the how and why does he work for us, all that, and what do we do here, right? Well, the reality is, one of the reasons I gave you this job, Matthew, is because I saw the artist in you, and you are a fantastic artist. And the sad truth is, when you're an artist, it's not the easiest way to make a living. I mean, I've been there, and I've been there, done that, and a lot of times, and I'm speaking to everybody. A lot of times when you're doing your craft or your art form, somebody hires you, and the old saying that people use. I don't really necessarily always believe in it. Um, they say the customer is always right, or you got to do what the customer wants. Well, sometimes when you're in the arts or in a craft or a trade like we are in, the customer's not always right, believe it or not. Because when you're going to make something, and you're going to make a functional piece for somebody, or even a structural piece, a table, it's a structure. It has to function. It has to stand properly. You don't want it to tip over. You don't want it to warp. And a lot of times, people try to get you to make goofy designs and strange things, and you get stuck in this whole thing, and you basically wind up chasing your own tail. And a lot of times you wind up getting stuck doing things you don't want to do.
Mhm.
And as an artist, that can be very frustrating, very frustrating. I come from a fine arts background. I went to an art school, and I studied photography and fine arts, and also woodworking. And my woodworking career, I was an artist, and I still am, and I made beautiful pieces for people. And later in my career, I was lucky enough to make what I wanted to make. As I got older and more established in my career, people came to me to make them something that was genuinely me, made from me, not I need this and I want this over here and this and that. So I got to enjoy that, and it was really, really quite fun. That's when my career really became something enjoyable for me. Well, I when I met Matthew, he was doing a lot of work. He was doing work for some major chain stores around Canada and the United States, I think, as well, huh?
Yeah.
And it wasn't that rewarding of a job, because here he was using toxic chemicals that the company that he was making the pieces for were demanding. They wanted this lacquer and this urethane or this poison or that one, and this these type of pieces that have to be glued up with this nasty stuff and that nasty stuff. And Matthew found himself being exposed to poison and not necessarily always doing what he wanted to do.
Not at all.
So um so when this opportunity came about, I kind of said, hey Matthew, you are an artist, and I want you to focus on making your artwork. I mean, I would love to see you doing what you want to do. And what's nice about this is that now Matthew gets to do what he likes to make what he likes to make. Now he's got a shop set up, and then also show it off with Odie's, and it's a good relationship here. And Matthew's actually able to be an artist now, and and it also frees up his time to become an educator and to be our tech support guy and teach. So I just wanted to give you a little lowdown who we are. Um, my woodworking career, I've kind of somewhat retired from working in the shop because I'm running Odie's now. And I'm much older. I'm an older guy now. I don't really like working in the shop too much because it hurts my body.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy it. So every now and then I crave getting back in there, and when I will start finding the time again, and Matthew will have his shop in Canada, I'll have mine down here, and we'll start doing lots of live streams and lots of tutorials on how to's and how to do different things with Odie's and just in general woodworking. So this is a really good opportunity for us now that we started this whole program where we get together on Thursday nights and we discuss, how to do something or a new tip or trick or what this product's for or what that one's for. And this is going to evolve into something much bigger for us and the viewers. And like I said, we want to share our expertise, and we're delighted to do so. All right, enough of that. Let's get on with it.
Well,
Okay.
I think with that being said, being able to be, an artist, a craftsman, and all of those things, Odie's is a part of that. It becomes a part of the artistry in
Yes.
your work. You put a lot of time into designing and creating and building a piece of furniture, and when you go to finish that, you want that finish to become part of the artistry of the product. It's the finishing touches. It's really one of the most important stages of building something, because it's finishing it, it's preserving it. It's
And
going to be,
that's what this system is.
yeah.
And that's what this system is. That's what this system does. And it helps you expand upon your artistic, vision. And a lot of people ask us what the different products are used for. And let's get into this. Let's get into it right now.
Yep.
Let's start explaining, why I did what I did. Well, we're going to start with the base product though, right now. This is our Odie's oil. Now my camera is probably backwards. So those of you that are dyslexic, you're going to see this the right way. So Odie's oil. This is the original oil. Fantastic product. And this oil can be used for pretty much any surface. Any porous surface. We use it on concrete. We polish our concrete floors here with it. We polish concrete floors all over the place. It's generally a wood finish, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. It's waterproof. It's stain proof. It's made from tung oil. It's a modified, enhanced tung oil, and then that's modified, enhanced to a unique process that's unique to me that I discovered and I developed. And then on top of that, it's blended with a bunch of oils and waxes, essential oils and waxes that make it a finish that's parallel to none. This is light years ahead of everything out there. Even our enemies, when they run tests on it, they find that we beat everything. It's quite comical. And some of our so-called enemies and haters, that guys that are working for other companies, we've got all the videos and the tests that they've done in the past, and they're afraid if they ever open their mouths up again, we'll just show them, and we'll show that we beat everything. But great product, food safe, solvent free, no hardeners, no dryers, but cures very quickly. Matthew, you could finish something and pretty much use it in hours, within hours. I mean, we can do a board and work the finish in, buff it off, and run it under the sink immediately after, and you're not going to get a water spot, and you're not going to get grain lift or anything. But we're going to suggest you let it cure for a couple of days before you start using it. Great product. This is your base. This is our base product. This one and the Super Duper oil. So if you're new to Odie's, these are the two products you want to start with. This one is a very unique. The regular Odie's oil is a very unique oil, the way it's made and the way its viscosity is, and it's pretty much unique to us. There's nothing else out there like it, and there wasn't until I came along. Really, literally, I mean, viscosity wise, very very thick, and you apply it like a wax. This one, the Super Duper oil, is much thinner, and this has got the viscosity of like a Danish oil. And you can apply it just about anywhere you would use a Danish oil, but it's going to have the durability of Odie's. Pretty close to the durability of Odie's. Odie's is a little more durable than this one, but It's still going to be waterproof. It's going to be stain proof. It's going to give you more of a matte finish in its own right. If you just use this by itself, it's going to be a lower luster finish. If you use the Odie's oil, it's going to be a higher luster. I'm not going to call it a high sheen because there's no sheen levels in our finishes. Your sheen levels come from your finish prep your sanding and the process and the steps you may take to get to different sheen levels. Now, a lot of people go, well, why do you have all these different products? Well, I come from a fine arts background. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design. I studied photography. And in photography, those of you that are photographers, I'm sure there's a few of you out there that are. In photography, it's a lot about the subtleties. So I come from an art form, original art form. I actually started woodworking before I did photography, but my formal education was in photography and fine arts. And in photography, the subtleties, we use different chemistry. We may use a different developer. We may use a different paper. You have your bromide papers. You get your bromide papers. You get your chloride papers. You got platinum plating printing. You got palladium printing. You got digital printing. You got all kinds of different ways to create your image. And then you also have different ways to expose your image. And then you have different ways to use each one of the different chemicals when you go to develop your image. So it's in each one of those will give you a different result. Some are very subtle, some are very dramatic. So coming from a system where it gave me ultimate control of the way light reflects off the image, off the paper, off the film, or it's something, an art form that gave me control over tonality and grain and contrast. Contrast is a big one. I kind of craved that when I got into woodworking. And when I got back into woodworking, after leaving college, I wound up looking at a piece of wood as if it was a piece of film. And the interesting thing is, wood is photosensitive. And most people don't know this. I mean, we get these questions all the time. How come, one part of my floor is lighter than the other? Or, my rug was laying on my floor and now I got a light area where the rug is. Well, wood is photosensitive. It means it's like a piece of film. When it's exposed to light, it will change color. Or just like us, we're photosensitive too. We go out in the sun, we get a suntan, right? So wood is photosensitive. So what I wound up doing is, from my background in photography, I wound up developing out my original Odie's finishes, which these two are them. Okay, literally, these are the two earliest finishes I made. I started making finishes like this. This one was probably the first one I did when I was a kid. And then it started turning into the regular Odie's oil. So the Super Duper was one of the first. And what I wound up doing is taking these and expanding upon them and learned that, wow, I could do so much more than just what I'm doing with this. I could reduce contrast. I can increase contrast by using various oils and various types of chemistry. And that's where this Odie system comes from. So, and in woodworking, one of the things in woodworking, you don't always only have color. You don't always only have contrast. You don't have only sheen isn't, gloss or low gloss. Those aren't the only aspects of woodworking that are controllable or desirable, or people that give you that effect or that feeling that you may be looking for. You also have texture.
Mm-hmm.
You also have the feel, because a lot of woodworking pieces you touch, like you touch your table, you touch the bowl, you walk on your floor in your bare feet and you feel that floor on your feet. So that is an often, how can I put it, overlooked aspect of woodworking.
It's often overlooked, and it's often just covered completely. You with a lot of finishes, you don't feel the wood at all.
So yes, that's correct. So other finish companies, they'll give you high gloss, semi gloss, and it's plastic that gives you high gloss, plastic coating that gives you semi gloss, plastic coating that gives you satin, and you're pretty much limited to that. Who's moving the camera? Is that Buster?
No,
The camera just moved. Where's the dog?
he's laying by me.
I think he moved the. Yeah, he must have pushed the camera with his
Oh,
feet.
he did.
Oh, I got my dog here. Sorry, the camera just drifted. I was like, it's a ghost. so, so other finishes, that's you're limited, and to me, I wanted a lot more. And a long time ago, I gave up using other finishes because I realized I had something much better. And I didn't create this system just to sell to the public. I created this system long, long time ago for me as a woodworker to use as my to enhance my pieces, to enhance my woodworking pieces, to literally complete my vision for my customer or for the piece that I was making. And that's how I came up with this system. It wasn't something I just decided to make and sell like other brands. My background is in fine arts and in woodworking. And I wanted to make something that gave me unlimited possibility, but also something that wouldn't poison me. I happen to also be very sensitive to chemicals. So this is the why we have this system. This is the why we have so many different oils. Now, I have more than just these that are on the table. Now, you don't see them all; they're all on the table below the camera. I have other finishes that have made for myself for many years, and these are the ones that I feel that the public and the woodworking community can relate to and can understand. But as we go on in the future, there are more finishes coming. You know, I showed you one the other day,
Yeah, I'm excited for them.
and they will be coming out. So if that makes sense to you all, then we're going to get on to the next part of this. Now, I'm seeing some questions come in. I may scroll at them. Matthew may want to interject, and maybe I'll if there's a question that it pertains to what I just talked about, I will grab it now. Okay. So Matthew, if you want to elaborate a little bit while I look through these, you can, and I'm going to hop back in again. Okay. So because I
Yeah.
keep seeing stuff popping up.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's beautifully described as how like the system came to be, and it was nice to it's interesting. I think it's another thing that kind of sets Odie's apart is where it was a finish that you created to use for yourself, and you were actually kind of convinced to bottle it and put it out to the public.
That's correct.
And
That's correct. So what happened was I can give you that little lowdown, that little history. Um, my wife and I had moved from California back to Florida in 2010, 2011.
2011.
And it was at the height of the whole economic collapse from, people call it 2008. It really started in about 2007 for us. And the worst of it came about in about 2010, 2011. And we decided to move on and go back home where I pretty much grew up was Florida, and where she grew up was in South Georgia, in Savannah, Georgia, Eastern Georgia, and we came back here to Florida, and I had a wood shop. I set up my wood shop here, like the same shop I had out west, and I was still manufacturing floors and tables and furniture, mainly wood flooring, mainly wide plank flooring, and tables and furniture as well, but mainly wide plank flooring. And I did get commissioned to do a whole bunch of tables for a big company, and I did. I started making the furniture for them, and they kind of piddled out. The economy was bad, money was not flowing right, and I had to kind of regroup a little bit, even after having a hard time. Or a lot of people, a lot of you that are watching are probably old enough to understand what happened in 2008 to 2011, and I actually had a lady who was coming to visit me. She's a good friend of mine. Now she's a good friend of mine. She owned a company called Dust Be Gone. She made the Dust Be Gone dust masks, and she also had a safety gear business. She might be watching tonight. If she is, Paula, chime in. And I didn't really never met her face to face, but I knew who she was. I called her up because I wanted to buy some safety gear for some of my employees and for my shop. and she came out to visit me. She wanted to made an appointment to come out to visit me, and when she came out, she saw all my tables that I had laid out in the shop, and she fell in love with them, and she couldn't believe the finish on it. And she saw me finishing some pieces, and she wanted to know what it was. And I says, "This is my magical oil, my Odie's oil." And she said, "Can I have some?" I gave her some, and about a month later, I got a phone call. It was a month, 3 months later, from actually Woodcraft. She had sent the jar to Woodcraft for them to play with because she liked it so much. She was one of their vendors, and they fell in love with it and asked me to make it and bring it to the public. And if I had put it in jars, put a label on, and I did. And then they asked me, "What other finishes you have?" And I started showing them the different finishes I have, and that's why we have Odie's today. And I continued woodworking up until about 19. I kept my
Yeah.
wood shop running till about 2019, but Odie's got so popular, it just overwhelmed, and now that's all I do. And I
That's
really
right.
haven't been back in the shop, really seriously working in the shop for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I would
So,
say. Yeah.
I don't know how we got into that, but that's why it came about. It was a product that I was using myself. It was my own finish for me, but it was so good that we were asked to make it for you all and make it available to the public. And I have many friends over the years that always would always get a bottle or jar from me. It's just something that I always knew would take off eventually, but I really didn't know how to do it. And actually, it wound up coming to me, and it happened. So this is why we have Odie's today. But let's get into the different finishes. Okay, so if you're new to Odie's, I'm going to tell you to start with the Super Duper or the regular Odie's. And these finishes are great. They work together. They work in unison. All the finishes in the system actually work in unison with each other. But these two are going to be your base. These are going to be the ones you're going to be used the most, and play off of them. If you're a regular woodworker or a flooring professional, if you're a flooring professional, this is all you need to know. This is it. The other ones, I mean, we can get into that later when you get more advanced. So if you're new to our product, this is where to start. Now, the Super Duper oil, if you put this down, like I said, it's going to give you a lower luster, a lower sheen. You can pretty much get a matte finish. If you want a matte finish, you low sanding. Let's say you stop at 120 or 100 grit, you're going to get a matte finish. At 150 grit, you're going to get a matte finish. If you want to step it up a little bit, but not much, you can put a coat of the Odie's oil over the top, and this is going to give you like a nice soft glow. And if you're putting this over the top of the Super Duper, you're going to use this like a wax. Now, you don't have to use this finish. You can just use this one by itself. And this will work. One coat will give you all the durability you really ever need. And the same thing with this one. One coat's going to give you the durability you need. Second coat is just going to step up the look. It's going to give you a better feel. It would ensure that you got full coverage. So if you missed an area, or if you got a little area where you don't have a little thin oil's a little thin, you don't have enough oil in the wood, the second coat will basically, enhance it, make sure you got it. But the reality is, if you're one of these guys that's in a rush and all you care about is a matte finish, one coat of one of these is no big deal. This is just going to give you more of a glow, a little more sheen, closer to a satin when you're in the 180, 220, 320 area. You're going to start going anywhere from a satin all the way up, and you start rising up, and you might wind up start getting into higher sheens when you get into the 600 grit, 400 and 600 and 800 grit area. So that's what these two finishes are good for. They're your base finishes. These are going to destroy just about any hard wax oil on the market, bar none. Just going to beat them, destroy them in durability and look. And the look is fantastic. Matthew, do you have any pieces that you can show that are just finished with Odie's, or Odie's and Odie's Super Duper, or your chair you're sitting on right now?
Yeah, my chair. Yeah, this is well. This had. I think I did have Super Pen on this, and then gosh, I can't even remember. It was so
All right.
long. It's
Well,
years.
and then both of these finishes, fantastic. These are the clear versions. Then we also have the
Can
dark version.
I'll say one other thing about this, the
Yeah,
like
go
the
ahead.
differences in the between the oil and the super duper. I kind of like to describe the Odie's oil. Like you said, it's the main base thing. It kind of has the biggest overlap of all the products kind of condensed into one product. And that's why if I could only choose one that I could ever use,
This,
it would be the Odie's oil. I could basically achieve anything I want.
this and this is the first product we released to the public
Yeah,
because of that. Because it overlaps, it pretty much does everything, and you can get a lot of different effects with this.
a lot of different effects. Yeah.
And you can mix the pigment in with everything. But if you're new to our product, just use it as described on our website, and a very, very, very small amount goes a very, very long way. This little jar will cover about 250 square feet on white oak. That's a lot.
That's a
9 ounces cover 250 square feet on white oak. I think it's about, and the cost of this is about 22 cents a square foot, which is dirt cheap. And we get a lot of people that go, oh, it's expensive. Well, it's not expensive. Yeah, this jar is $58 or $57, whatever it is. But it's coverage for coverage, it can't be beat. It's 22 cents a square foot. Our closest competitor is 50 cents a square foot. And their product can't even hold the candle towers. Their product water spots, it stains, it you get one finish, one look, and that's all you really can achieve out of it. They tell you not to do more than one coat, which is kind of silly. So you can't do more than one coat. Ours, you can do one coat, or you can do 5 or 6 coats, and we'll get into that later. We don't advise you to do that right away. We advise you to just use 1 or 2 coats in the beginning and understand the finish and start understand how it behaves and how you use it. It's very different than anything else on the market.
very, very different, and like you said, very potent. Like a side by side comparison, I see some people kind of like rediscovering like tongue oil, and tongue oil is a great finish, but compared to Odie's, which is a tongue oil base but very specially done, a gallon of tongue oil, 128 ounces. You're going to get about 150 square feet of coverage, and you got to do 3 or 4 coats, and it's going to take a month, to dry. It's like
9 ounces, you get 250 square feet.
two
So
out of 9 ounces. So like, it's like it's a good.
that's because it's a modified, enhanced, and proprietary formulation, which just it's literally 20 times the finish than a regular tongue oil finish or
Yeah,
more.
exactly.
So, where was it going to go?
And the other thing I was going to say, just between the Super Duper and the Odie's oil, yes, the lower luster and that nice matte sheen from the Super Duper. I find too it adds a little bit more of a warmth to it, like that Danish oil look. So you get that warmth, that soft, subtle kind of glow, and Odie's is more of that bright,
and once again,
clear.
that's about the
Has that
subtleties.
sparkle.
That's about the subtleties.
That's
So yeah, this will give you a little warmer of a finish. Okay, it's not as clear of a finish as this. Okay, but it's going to give you a little bit of a warmer look, and a softer and a less of a luster, not such a high sheen. Now, there are ways to get a nice sheen out of this,
there are.
and we can talk about that in a little while. But I read something that somebody was saying on YouTube, I think.
Yeah,
Oh, you use
Facebook.
Facebook. You use the Super Duper first, and then the Odie's over the top, and then the other guy goes, "No, it's the other way around." Well, they're both right. so, so you can use the Super Duper as your base oil, as your base coat, as your primer, or whatever you want to call it, and then put the Odie's oil over the top, and like a wax, a day later, and you're going to step up your sheen. You're going to step up the luster. It's going to give you a little build, like a micro build, and it's going to give you this nice soft glow. It's really pretty, and it's the tactile feeling. When we get to that, it's bar none. I mean, it'll feel soft and silky. Those of you that are Odie's users can explain to our viewer how soft and really nice that would be. Well, we're having trouble loading this video. That's not good. Okay, hopefully people seeing us. Now, you can also lay the Odie's oil down, and you look at it and you say, I wish I had a little more sheen out of that. I'd like it to be a crisper, more sheen finish, like a little more of a wet look. You put the Super Duper over the regular Odies, and bam, it's just the opposite. It's a much crisper, a sharper looking finish. It's not as soft of a glow, but it really steps up that sheen to a different level. But that all depends on your initial sanding as well. So these are the two main finishes. Like I said, once again, if you're new to the products, this is where you want to start. Now we also have the same finishes in the dark category. So you got Odie Super Duper Dark and Odie's Regular Dark. And look at the jar, it's dark. And look at this one, it's dark. Okay. Now, how is that so? It's not pigment. One of the things people need to understand, everybody thinks it's a color, it's going to color the wood. No, these are, once again, are another thing about the subtlety. A lot of people like patina. You can use this as a patinaing oil. It'll give you a little patina. So you put it on your white oak, and it'll make your white oak look like it's a little old, like it's maybe been fumed. And then with age and with ultraviolet light exposure and oxygen over time, over the coming months, it'll get darker and darker and richer patina. I actually like using this finish on white oak or pine when I know I'm going to beat the snot out of it. Where, like on a floor, when I'm going to start using it and walking on it and everything. And when you scratch it and maybe denting it, the finish, actually, the scratches and dents actually become part of the natural patina of the wood. And if you want to touch them up, you just wipe a little bit more on, and you'll see that where that dent is and where that extra wood fiber and that end grain is exposed, it'll actually darken up and actually enhance the dent or the scratch to the point where it's actually kind of nice looking instead of something ugly like you would see on a polyurethane scratch. So these two finishes are great for that. But also, when I first started, when I talked about why I made the system in photography and all that stuff, this is a good way to control contrast. So if I want to increase contrast on a lighter wood, those of you that are photographers are probably hearing me on this one. If I want to increase contrast on a lighter wood, I'll use the dark products. Because what it will do, if you got a piece of oak and you got maybe a little knot here and a little knot there and a little divot here, or a little inclusion here, in the board, or you got tiger flecked and then you got your normal grain, or you might even, in some cases, some people might have sapwood or whatever. Well, this dark finish will enhance the darker areas in that board and almost highlight the lighter areas. And when white oak, especially quarter sawn white oak, you have that tiger fleck in there, and that tiger fleck, that denser tiger fleck, will stay a little light, where the softer grain and the vertical grain will go darker. So now you wind up increasing the contrast, and you increase the modeling and the chatoyance in that piece of wood, that boring piece of wood. White oak is a nice species, but sometimes it can be kind of boring. And you need to lighten it up. That's why you see a lot of people fuming their white oak and staining it and using reactives and all that stuff to get all these different effects out of it. Well, this is a really nice finish to enhance the beauty, the natural beauty of the white oak, without using pigments or nasty chemicals. What's in here is the actual oils and waxes themselves. This is the natural tannins in the oils and waxes that give this beautiful color. And then it's also made up of some oxidizing oils that will darken and gracefully age and patina with age. So that's what the dark line of finishes are for. And we have them in wax, we have them in butter, we have them in super duper, and we have them in oil. So just about every finish we have, except for the super penetrating oil, we have a dark version of at this point. So that's what these are used for. Now, there's a lot of confusion on the market. A lot of people come in sometimes, newbies to it, and what does the color look like on pine? What does it look like on white oak? Well, that's all relative to the board, to the tree, because every tree is a little different. It's all relative to how much UV exposure you got. It's all relative to your sanding, all that. So this is something that is going to be a learned thing. But those of you that try it in the beginning, and you're going to see how beautiful it really is. I would suggest try it, use it. And Matthew, you can show an example between the regular oil and the dark. You had just hold up two boards earlier before the live stream.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I have a couple examples here. Just
Got questions pertaining to what I'm talking about right now? Okay, so we'll get to that after Matthew shows what he's got here. Okay.
just a quick little example. These are a couple boards that I had used in video. So this piece, see if that will tune in. That's with an Odie's Dark, and that's with the regular Odie's. Oops.
Which is lighter.
You can see that distinction there.
It was actually very dramatic earlier. I don't know why. I guess you changed your camera a little bit. But that's okay. Yeah, it's a big difference. So that's the difference. It is subtle in some ways, but do you notice the one on the right, the darker one, it actually has more contrast. You see how the rays in the wood, the lines in the wood, the grain, it accentuated that darker grain, and you got a lot more separation between the grain, and the one on the left almost looks flat and lifeless. So that's the difference. That camera gets blurry when you get close.
It does, yeah, I know.
So we got to get you a better setup there.
I believe that's what Bear Maid was talking about. He says, does the dark finish make the figured wood stand out?
It does. It does. Now I'm not done talking about this dark finish though. About contrast.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is, on a lighter wood, it'll increase contrast. On a darker wood, it'll reduce contrast in a lot of times. Like Wenge. Wenge, beautiful wood, real nice dark wood. And sometimes you'll get a little bit of lighter areas in your Wenge. And sometimes if it's not steamed Wenge and it's fresh, you'll have these blonde streaks in it. Most people freak out and, oh my God, it's horrible. But it's actually kind of cool looking when you first get it, I think. But most people don't realize that Wenge is photosensitive, and over time, in a matter of just probably not even a couple weeks, it's all going to turn dark. So don't freak out. Okay, those blonde areas are going to go away. But the Odie's Dark will really enhance that Wenge and just really reduce that contrast and get it nice and dark and rich and almost black. And it's really, really pretty. So, or even walnut. Some walnut, my choice for walnut when I really want, now not everybody's going to agree with me on this one. When I want my walnut to pop, I'm going to use my lighter finishes. I'm going to use my clear finishes because I like all the different color in walnut. Sometimes walnut can even have like purple hues, and then you get the blondes and the dark browns and the golden colors and stuff. And I want to keep all that. I want to really just be true to what that piece of wood looks like if you just wet it with water. And then that's when I would stay with the regular Odies. If I wanted to reduce the contrast in the walnut and make it darker, I would finish it with my dark. And the dark's going to bring down and make all the highlight areas and the shadow areas, the dark areas closer together. So you're reducing contrast. And mahogany, another one. If I want to really bring out all the color in mahogany, but I also want to reduce the contrast and bring it a little closer together. And over time, actually, on mahogany, it takes a little time because mahogany is a highly photosensitive wood. It does take time for mahogany to really richen up and get in its true color, after it's been sanded or sawn. I'll use the dark there to darken that up, but also bring that contrast a little closer together. At the same time, though, it does show the modeling.
It does, yeah.
It does show the modeling.
It is the subtleties, the nuances of the finishes. Like when I first started using Odie's, I was dealing with very highly figured woods, and I just wanted the clear finishes. I didn't even really use the darks at all for quite a while.
Babinga, I would not put dark on, period. I would stay clear of the dark on Babinga because I love all that modeling and that crazy figure and that depth and the blondes and the shadows and how they all interchange with there and that chatoyance. I'm going to want that clear finish because I want to really just make it pop, bring it all out and really show it all off. Yeah. If I wanted to reduce the contrast, I would put the dark on, and that would bring the highlights, the bright areas, the sapwood and all that. It'll bring it closer to the heartwood in color. and then you'll lose the depth in your Babinga. Waterfall Babinga, I actually saw another company group bragging about their finish on Waterfall Babinga, and it looked hideous. It looked hideous. And the funny thing is, we had a very similar board as theirs, and we put it right next to the picture side by side, and night and day. Night and day. Their Babinga looked almost yellow. Even the sapwood was like yellow, ugly, hideous. And it was muted. The Odies really made it pop. That clear Odie just made it boom. And the funny thing is, the guys with that ugly muted version of the Babinga are using oils that actually have a tendency to oxidize.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of companies go wrong. You know, they pick a format and that's all they do. And that's not how it works here. We don't do that. We have a efficacy, a product that works amazing. We have a base that works amazing. The oils, our base oil and the way our base oil is formulated. But we use other oils sometimes to get different effects. So I look at the oils like as if I was looking at a developer in photography. I hope I'm not losing people when I talk about that. But you know, in photography, there's many different types of developers you can use, and accelerators and all kinds of stuff. And you know, some things bring out the cool tones, some things bring out the warm tones, some things bring out the grain, some things actually, you know, hide the grain, actually make it much tighter. So all that, the way I developed this out was taking all that in mind and taking that whole way of thinking and incorporating it into the woodworking field, where I can actually look at a piece of wood, pre-visualize what I want it to look like, and then pick the appropriate finish and chemistry to develop that piece of wood out to the vision that I had. And that's why this system is what it is. Some people do get frustrated and think it is complex, but it is not. It is very, very simple. Very simple. So I hope I was clear on the dark and the clear oils, the oils. You said you had some questions pertaining to what we were talking about.
Well,
did I already answer them or
you
not?
did, but also this was it could apply to both the dark and the regular, I guess.
Speak up, please.
So, should we sand between the coat of Super Duper and Odie's oil, say like a 400 grit sand?
No, you
Like
don't have to.
because
You
this
should.
is when you were talking about
When you
you
say
use it together.
should, not necessary.
Okay.
You don't have to sand in between coats with Odies. And in fact, in most cases, we really don't recommend it because a lot of people that are beginners to the finish could actually mess up there if they're impatient. But you can sand in between coats and get some really fantastic effects. And that's room for a whole nother discussion on effects. Now, we did do that last week and the week before, right? So if you want to see about sanding, Matthew, you might know what episode that was, about how to step up sheen and sanding in between coats. You can look up the previous live streams. Okay?
Yeah, all about Sheen, it would have been called, I think.
All about sheen. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have one that's called All About Sheen. That's correct. All right. So Matthew, if you want to add to this, please do. And
Uh,
and if you want to go on to another oil or another product, let's go. Let's do it. So and I'm
yeah,
gonna let you.
I'll just add what I was going to just finish up talking about. In the beginning, I just went for the clear finishes and kind of avoided the dark. But once I started using the dark, I find myself going for it more and more. I like it on the white oak to get that contrast. I like it on woods that naturally are photosensitive in the way where they darken, like cherry. Cherry darkens, and you can kind of
Brazilian
expedite
cherry, mahogany. Yeah. Oh yeah.
cherry mahogany and expedite and add to that natural darkening and patining of the wood. And most of the time I do use the clear on walnut, but I do like it on walnut. I actually have a couple table bases and other things that I've made finished with the Odie's dark on the walnut. And
Walnut, you can go either way. You can
it,
go
can
either.
go, it could go either way. Yeah. And yeah, I think that's it really for my
We're on the
contribution.
subject of contrast.
Yeah. Super pen.
So on the other side, not the dark side, we're going to go the light side. This is probably the clearest of all the finishes we make. And if you got a piece of Babinga or you got a piece of walnut, and I don't advocate for you, if you're new at the Odie's line, I don't advocate you jumping for this right away and doing what I'm talking about. Okay? It's okay to do it, but you got to be careful, and we're going to explain why. If I want ultimate clarity in my piece of Babinga, and like I said, I'm doing a $20,000-$30,000 piece for somebody that's really, it's something really special, and I got a really special piece of wood, and the Babinga's really figured, and I got this beautiful white sapwood on the live edge, and I want to keep that the way it is, and I don't want it to yellow. I'm going to reach for this Super Pen. And the cool thing is Super Pen has several different properties, just like the regular oils do as well. The interesting thing about this one is it'll help you preserve the clarity. It when you put this on, it's like literally as if the equivalent of putting water on a piece in color. But you're going to use almost nothing. I mean, so little. I know it comes in a big bottle, but very, very, very little. Just enough to change the color of the wood to look like you just wet it. Put it on, buff it off completely, let it cure for a day or two. You know, the longer you wait, the better. Okay, but you got to let it cure at least a day. Let it do its thing. It's going to soak into the wood. It has another property that's really interesting. It's a really good wood stabilizer. This is a good species. I mean, this is a good finish for species that have a tendency to move and warp and twist. Or if you got a piece of wood that's just got a lot of figure or a lot of stress points in it, this is a really, really good oil to put on and just use a very little bit. Let it sit on the piece for an hour or half hour. Buff it off. Do not puddle it on. Get everything you can off the surface so it's dry after you're done buffing it off, wiping it down, and let it do its thing for at least 24 hours. And this oil is gonna do some interesting things. The regular Odie is similar in some ways. It actually has some of these properties, but it has other properties that this one doesn't have. But the properties that this one has that it's special at is it will, when it gets in the piece, it'll separate out. Sometimes when you get this oil, you'll notice it separates in the jar sometimes. Some of it does, not all of it. And when you put it in your workpiece, it does a similar thing. Part of it will separate out and go deep down into the lower cellulose fiber of the wood. And it'll fill all the voids in that wood where there was once water. See, a lot of finishes, you put them on and they pretty much sit on the surface and that's it. And you're not really finishing or preserving or stabilizing the inner part of the board, the lower cellulose fiber. And that's one of the things that this finish does. It just using a tiny little bit, be just enough to change the color on the surface, and some of these oils will latch on, bond, and harden and cure on the upper cellulose, but others are going to separate deep down inside and start to cure there. Really interesting stuff, because what it does is it keeps, how can I say it? When you have high humidity situation, it won't allow water to settle inside that board. If water can get through the first layer of the finish, it's not going to let moisture get inside that piece of wood because it's already filling that void. Almost nothing of this finish evaporates out. There's really nothing in this oil that's going to evaporate out. It's going to be there for good inside. The other thing that it does is, how can I say it? Oh my God, my brain just went dead. At the same time as stabilization, it's going to give you that clarity. Now, you don't want to flood the piece. If you flood the piece with this, then your next layer of finish is not going to grab, because it's going to reject the second layer. It's not going to allow that second layer to have any place to go. So that's why you want to use very, very little of it. Now, in most cases, I'm going to tell you to put a coat of Odie's over the top of it, because this is where all your durability and strength is going to come for spills, for stains, grape juice, wine, whatever it may be that you drop on it, or even grease. So that's what the Super Pen's for. Now, I don't, a lot of people like to grab this and flood their piece with it. No. You're just doing yourself a disservice. So this is about clarity and stability, reduction of movement. Now, a lot of floor guys are going to say, wow, I'd love to have that. It'll reduce movement in the floors and stop claims, etc. Yes and no. It is good, but if you're a floor guy and you're new to our finishes, I'm going to tell you no. The Odie's oil is going to give you the stabilizing properties on a wood floor, plenty of stability. This is more for when you've got a table that's highly figured, or you've got, or even a cutting board needs to work. This is really nice on as well, to be honest with you. Okay. You can put it on a cutting board and then top it off with the Odies. It'll stabilize the cutting boards. People have a tendency to throw them in the sink and wash them. And some people even put them in a damn dishwasher, like my wife has done in the past.
No, I have not.
Yeah, you have. We're not going to get in an argument. You did it many years ago. Yeah, I've done it then. I taken my little.
You.
Yeah. So, okay.
Me.
Thanks, Tracy. So anyway, that's what this is for. Great finish, fantastic, but just be careful using it. Don't use too much. Stability and clarity.
Ultimate stability, ultimate clarity.
I use
goes a long way.
Mainly for clarity.
Yeah.
Mainly clarity.
Keeping the lights light and the darks dark and bright. Ultimate contrast.
The ones you all talked about.
Go ahead. Well, I'm still talking, but go ahead.
Okay, when you're done, can you address cure time?
No, not right now.
Okay. But it is a question I've had a couple of people ask. So.
Cure time, you really shouldn't be obsessed with cure time, is because our finish cures faster than anything on the market. The reality is, you can get on our finish faster than you can get on anything else. So, but we're gonna get there.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
So yeah, don't interrupt questions that aren't relevant to what we're getting at right now. We're gonna get that. That's good. I'm gonna get that later. So what were you saying, Matthew?
Yeah, ultimate stability, ultimate clarity, and a little goes a long way, and it's very important. Like, we don't want people, we're not trying to upsell you on try.
No.
Oh, you got to buy this, you got to buy this, you got to buy that, and like, we want you to use that product sparingly. Like, a little goes a long way. Get it to stretch out as far as you can get it to go. That's how it's used, and then that's how we want to use it to set you up.
So that rocking chair is absolutely gorgeous, and I wish you could show it to people. But you've got a fixed camera, so
I do today, yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous, and you talked about you use super pen on it, and I know why you use pen on it, because it's got all that figure in the seat and the arms and all that stuff, and he wanted to keep it like it is. He wanted to keep it stable, the color of it, not the chair itself, because the wood is actually pretty stable. It's been dried right. It's beautiful wood. It's not a wood that's going to move. But for clarity, amazing stuff. Okay.
I can actually join from my phone.
Yeah, well, if you want to get up and show it, we'll do that. That'd be great.
I can do that.
So let's get into cure. These people asked about cure time and these finishes, and we wound up covering the oils, which are the ones that people are going to be worried about cure time with anyway.
Yes.
So anywhere from 1 to 3 days. Literally on just about all of them, except for the super pen, if you were going to flood this on like crazy, which I'm going to tell you not to. So, but the reality is cure time is a weird word. It's a loosely used word, and it's unfortunate that it is. Well, first of all, if you use the Odie finishes right and you buff them off properly, I've done floors where I'll buff them off and I can walk on the floor immediately after I get done buffing it off, because I buffed it off properly. So your buffing process actually helps initiate the polymerization process. But while you buff, you got to make sure you get all the oil off the surface. You do not leave anything on the surface. Our finishes are very different than pretty much anything else out there. All these other brand finishes, especially the hard wax oil finishes that come from Europe, and the ones in the United States that call themselves hard wax oil, just about 98%, 97, 98% of them are really polyurethane finishes that are lying on the surface. And those finishes, you have the illusion of buffing it off, but you're really not. They'll tell you to buff the finish. All you're really doing is leveling it out. Those finishes are really what we call a wipe-on poly. Now, in the case of Odie's oil, you have to buff every last bit of it off the surface to the point where when you run your hand across it or you go to touch it, it does not leave a smudge, it does not leave a mark, and it doesn't feel wet or anything like that. It'll feel dry. And
The
that's
only
when you know you did it properly. So your cure time, if I was another manufacturer and I used their logic, I would say cure time would be instant. But if I was to tell you the truth about workability, like working time, like my time before, how can I say not working time? Time before you can get on it and use it in a somewhat light manner would be a day to 3 days. In some cases, it can be up to 5. It depends on your humidity and temperature and all that. Now we're going to get into that as well. Now, I want to talk about cure here right now, though. Cure time. The sad truth is that most manufacturers lie to you about their cure times. Most finishes don't cure for months fully. That's the truth. Now, you may be able to use brand A in 3 days, or brand B in 5 days, or brand C in 2 weeks, or brand F in 15 minutes, whatever it is. Okay, but reality is most of them don't really cure for months. And finishes, they'll go through a stage, a process over time, over the months, 6 months after you, up to 6 months after you put it down. It's the same reason why, like when you, back in the day when we bought a car or you just had your car freshly painted, they would tell you not to wax the car for 6 months. Even though the automotive paint flashes off and cures within hours, it's still curing over months and hardening. And you don't want to put a wax over the surface of those paints and those finishes because the wax seals it off from the world and the air and the oxygen and doesn't allow the finish to flash off and gas off and finish its actual curing process. So that's why historically we've always say in the finish industry, do not wax something for months after you finished it. In the case of Odie's, we can cheat a lot. We can wax something, within. You can wax something the same day, but I don't advocate for that because you're going to have a little bit of problems. You can come into some problems, but you can wax something a couple days later, and you'll be fine. But we're also going to tell you, actually, the longer you wait, the better off you are. And we'll tell you, a week, 2 weeks later, you're in a good area, or a month later, you're even better. So you want to wait to really start layering a lot of some of these finishes, with a wax. Now, Odie's, like I said, we can cheat and do it within a day. But when we're talking cure time, that's a loosely used word, and a lot of companies lie. And I'm not going to lie to you. Full cure, full cure, it's up there. It's weeks, could be months, but you don't really see it. You're not going to know. Usability, a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. A lot of cases I have flooring contractors that are doing restaurants. They put the finish on at midnight they're out of the building by midnight and they're on the floor the next morning. Restaurant opens up for lunch and there's hundreds of people walking through there and no problem. None at all. If it's used properly, if they buff it off properly. So I hope I answered the cure time question.
I think some of the concern is in commercial settings when you're pushing
Another
out your,
another well, I
think
just
that's
answered
what
it.
they
Another
are worried
another
about.
analogy is concrete. You put concrete slab down, you're able to walk on it the next morning. People think it's cured, but it's not. Concrete is constantly curing. Concrete cures for years and years. Now, interesting thing is, the slower something cures, concrete cures,
the harder it is.
the harder it is, the more durable it is. So when I developed my finishes, I knew this because my dad was a concrete guy, and that was one of the things he taught me when I was a little boy in New York. I remember I was just a little kid. I must have been 7, 8 years old, and he told me about that, and it kind of stuck with me. Odie's dries very quickly, but I've had to find a delicate balance of not too fast of a cure time and not too slow of a cure time. And in fact, I've actually sped the cure time up over the recent years, but actually kept durability pretty damn good. Actually, in some cases, even better. than it was before. So I hope I answered that. We finished. We went over the oils, and if people have oil specific questions, throw them at us now. I'm going to look at the questions up here and up here that have been coming in, and then we're going to get on to the waxes and the butters as well. So, Tracy, if you see any there, Matthew, if you got something to elaborate while I'm reading, please do, because you can't see the questions, can you?
No.
Okay. So, Tracy, you can go ahead and chime in. Matthew, you may want to elaborate a little bit about your experiences with some of the things and Cure and all that. And I'm going to go ahead and start looking at some more questions. Because I
Yeah, I
think we
think
answered a lot of the ones that came in
These are the ones
earlier.
you need to look at over here, James. These up here, these Facebook ones.
Okay, you got the Instagram.
Yeah, I've got Instagram.
yeah, all the things with, you have dry time and cure time and stack time and all these different kinds of times in terms of finishes. You have some finishes that supposedly cure instantly when exposed to a light, and you have ones that with hardeners and catalysts that make them stronger and harder when they for them to cure. And a lot of it is kind of, I think I'm going to turn this off. I think it's
So I have a Cure specific question from somebody. I was surprised to learn in your. Oh, so this is from Raymond Lunn. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your last name right. I can barely see it because it's small on the screen. I was surprised to learn in your last session that direct sunlight accelerates the cure time via UV component. Did I get that right? We don't have an ultraviolet component in the finish. No, there's no acrylamide or acrylates in the finish, and that's what usually it's in UV cure finishes. Those are some of the components that are in those types of finishes. No, the oils and Odies and the finish itself actually does get initiated. It polymerizes through multiple processes, but ultraviolet light is one of them. Yes, ultraviolet light will speed up the cure time of the finish. Which part of the spectrum exactly, I don't really know. We can do some experimenting on that. I haven't really got deep into the color temperatures, but I will tell you anything 5600 Kelvin and above is going to speed up your cure time. So sunlight will speed up the cure time, but be sure you buffed if it's a clear finish and just an oil finish without the pigment. Just be sure that you buff the finish completely off before putting it under the ultraviolet light, whether it's the sun or a UV light. Okay? So Raymond said I meant UV in the sunlight. Okay, so I hope I answered it there, Raymond. And then I got another one from Dusty Mountain Creations. Would there be any advantages to using a UV light to speed up the cure? Yes, yes. In fact, just from, I'm never obsessed. I've never been obsessed over cure in my history. And I've owned big shops. Okay. Big shops, commercial shops where I'm pumping out, 6,000 square feet and 10,000 square feet of flooring per day. Okay. Pre-finished. And I had big shots, but I had limited space when I was doing those big floors. So for cure, and never really had to worry about it too much. So obsessing over cure time, it's okay. You're asking these questions because a lot of guys, a lot of companies push that, and a lot of people seem to think that's a big deal. Odie's cures very quickly if you're using it right. If you're using Odie's oil properly, you can handle a piece, like I said, within minutes of after buffing it off. I've delivered pieces. I've finished in my shop at 4 o'clock in the morning at 18 degrees here in Florida, and my shop down at Sop Shopping when it's gotten really cold, really cold. It does get cold up here in northern Florida. Not often, but when it does, it can get really cold. And I finished at 18 degrees at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I think by 7 a.m., the truck came and picked the piece up. And I'm talking a $35,000 table. And I still get letters from the man that I made that table 12 years later for thanking me on how beautiful it is. So, you're fine with cure, guys. Not something to stress over. Now, the issue where cure time starts becoming a little bit tricky and could be something that people can be impatient about is when you start making opaque stains, which I would call like an oil-based paint with Odies, where you have a opaque black, where you have an opaque blue or an opaque white. And we discussed that last week when we did our color videos, our color live. Those, ultraviolet light actually really helps in speeding up the cure time, because those finishes are not buffed off when you do an opaque stain, when you're going for that lacquer look or that even that matte opaque stain look. Okay, those finishes take longer to cure. Those can take 3, 4, and up to 5 days in some cases to get them to cure where you want them. So those finishes actually are beneficial if you're in a rush to put ultraviolet light on. So I hope that answers that question. Matthew, if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, I want to start reading some more questions. And
Yeah, I think the cure time. I think some things for you just got to bring it down to common sense. Like for shipping, you don't want to wrap your stuff in bubble wrap, plastic, saran wrap stuff. You want to have some kind of breathable sheet or something over it before you wrap your things up. If you have to send it out of the door in a rush, you can still ship it, but plastic. I've had a few people have some. You can easily fix it, but if you wrap a piece freshly oiled and wrap it up in bubble wrap the next day and ship it out, you might have a little bit of bleed back or something like that.
So that's the difference between full cure and
cured to
and
handle.
usability cure. That's
Yeah.
right. And so, like I said, if you are wrapping your pieces up, don't wrap them up in bubble wrap. I don't care what finish you're using. That's not what you want to do. You don't want to let bubble wrap touch the workpiece. You do want to put a piece of cloth in between the bubble wrap and the workpiece. Okay? You don't want to put cardboard on top of your workpiece because cardboard has acid in the paper. And as the finish is still flashing off, you're gonna kind of leave blemishes in the finish. Now, it's not going to really hurt the finish horribly because it can be easily buffed out and fixed, but you don't want to deliver a piece of furniture to your customer with cardboard ribbing in it. So always, if you're shipping your piece out long before it's fully cured, you want to wrap it in a cloth or towel, or even the blue paper towels. I used to use those in my flooring business and put them in between the stacks of boards when I was shipping out a floor that I felt like it could use a little bit more air and breathability. So, but and you really do want to layer your pieces with cloth anyway, because when things ship and they're rubbing together,
you don't want to get shiny spots or abrasion spots or things like that.
A lot of people overlook that, and that's a common mistake that many of us did when we were green and fresh, and shipping our works out to people. I'm gonna keep reading up here and see if I can find some more. Matthew, you can start talking about some of the other stuff and things you're doing. Parsons Russell. Okay, somebody asked about the name Mr. Cornwall. I think you guys answered that.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more to that story than that, Blake. It's a great question. Maybe we get to that at the end if we have some time. Okay, a little more about it. It's actually a little bit of a funny story, but yeah, it's that's the name we picked. I was surprised. Okay, plus I used the trick. Okay, I appreciate it. Matt, have you got anything to say while you had it? You guys, Tracy, you got any more questions for you? I appreciate how you guys stress using very little product. Yes, Dusty, mustache creation, very important. Use almost nothing. And like I said, those are the people that think we're expensive, they don't understand how to use the product, because we're like I said, we're probably the least expensive wood finish out there coverage. We may be the most expensive ounce for ounce because it is liquid gold, but
golden nectar of the gods.
Gold has a heck of a lot more spending power than dog poop. Okay, so that's my way of putting it. Let's put it that way. So
we definitely want you to use it sparingly, and that goes for all of the finishes. And when we get into the butters and waxes, it's even far less than what you use of the oils. And hey, like if you're using too much product in your application, you're wasting product. You have to buff all that off. Now you're making your life more difficult to get all that unnecessary excess off, and it's just going in the trash, right? So less is more with the Odies for sure. And the only product that resides in the wood. So if you've got swaths of oil sitting on the top after your application, it's all, it's really unnecessary to do that and just makes life more difficult and everything else.
Okay, so I got a guy who's talking, he's praising us, but he's also talking about watching somebody using graphene and ceramic coatings and oil. Okay, let's just be clear, and I'm probably going to bring this up on every live stream now. Maybe I'll start the live streams and I'll end them this way.
This is a public service announcement.
Yeah, public service announcement. And this is the Clairvoyant Woodworks. Awesome. Thanks for elaborating and sharing your experience with Odie, and that's great. I love that you love our product. But I will tell you that the guys that are using graphene and ceramic coating, ceramic graphene nanoparticle, whatever they want to call it, this is a public service announcement. Stay the hell away from graphene ceramic coatings. Poison, 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 poison. Deadly poison. People are afraid of lead. Let me tell you, lead is nothing compared to graphene. Okay, you don't want to be around it. You don't want to be breathing it in. You don't want to be sanding it. You don't want to get it on your hands. You don't want your children near it. You don't want your dog, your pets near it. You don't want your customers near it. You don't want it in the environment, period. As a matter of fact, us human beings should be up in arms and screaming at our government officials and the manufacturers of this poison and the influencer shills, the scammers that push it. Some of them actually know what they're pushing. Some don't know. Some are ignorant to the fact that it is poison. Graphene nanoparticles are really nasty stuff, and sometime in the near future, we're going to find out it's one of the worst environmental disasters that humanity has unleashed on itself.
Yeah, you
So,
think forever chemicals are bad.
yes, graphene nanoparticles, the ceramic coatings. Not all ceramic coatings are made from graphene, so not all of them are. There used to be ceramic coatings that were decent, but today they've hijacked the word ceramic coating and for graphene nanoparticle and lace coatings. And what they are, graphene nanoparticle is about 1 atom thick. It's a nanoparticle that's 1 atom thick. So it's a micro razor blade. It is a atom-sized razor blade. Well, that atom-sized razor blade, the reason why they like it so much, because it has the ability to slice in and get into things. And they also use it in pharmaceuticals. And I don't want to get too deep into that aspect of the thing. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. And what those graphene nanoparticles, they're so tiny and they're so sharp, they have ability to slice right into your cell wall and right into your chromosomes. And then you start having mutations. And mutations cause cancer. And this is what a lot of people are peddling. And it's insanity. It's just another gimmick. And unfortunately, there are some talented people that have got on that bandwagon and they're not aware of what's going on. And there are some people that are just shills and scammers and out to make a buck and be YouTubers and really not give a shit about what they're pushing. It's just about getting rich.
It is not the next best thing in the world of wood finishing
and we blow it away anyway. So
yeah.
We'll go head to head with any nano coating, any graphene ceramic coating, and destroy it. Odie's oil by itself will beat any graphene ceramic coating that I know of.
Well, it's all a scam, right? It's super expensive. It's poison first and foremost, and yet you got to get your maintenance coat and do a recoat every year or two, and keep this and that, and a special cleaner and all this stuff for it. It's just all like one of those very gimmicky.
It gets in the environment. It's really bad in aquifer. It gets into everything.
Really
and it's floating around in the air now. What's really sad is I'm breathing it in myself right now, probably because it's just in the environment now. I went to the auto parts store the other day to buy to find some water spot remover. That was yesterday because we make waxes and I make an automotive wax as well. And I'm getting ready to wax one of the company vehicles that we take to shows, and it had some water spots on it. I found, and I'm like, I got to get water spot remover. I went in the auto parts store, and my God, there's a whole freaking counter shelves full of graphene crap. I couldn't believe it. I was just shaking my head like, you got to be kidding me. And every brand's got their own version of graphene ceramic coating. I didn't even want to be in the aisle because I know what the shit does to you, literally. All right, so I'm too much on that. Let's go on to something else. Okay.
Before you go to the waxes, which oil for a wood burned piece of art? SPO or Super Duper?
Well, that's up to him.
It's Cosmic Camper.
That's up to her. For me, a burned piece of artwork,
Wood burn.
a wood burning,
the wood burning, and
just the regular Odies or the Super Duper, not the Super Pin.
Not the Super
No,
Okay.
no, there's no reason for that. The Super Duper or the Odies, or both, and they'll work really nice. Or even the butter. And we're going to start getting into the butters and the waxes. I want to look one more time at some more questions. I recently got a page where someone makes furniture, pricey wood, and uses a graphene. Okay. Grandpa used to boil linseed oil. Okay. Matthew, you want to elaborate? I'm going to let you go back in there.
Yeah, I guess like maybe I'll kind of go over, the lineup. You get your solvent-free super pen, you have the Super Duper, the oil, the butter, and the wax. I kind of like to think in one way, the deeper an oil penetrates into the wood, the more natural color that it brings out of the wood. So the super pen with that migrating oils and that super penetration brings out all that natural color of the wood, but with that ultimate clarity. And as we get up into the oil, the wood butter, the wax, our finish starts residing higher in the wood fiber, thus kind of bringing out less of a color change in the wood. And that's kind of one general kind of aspect you can kind of think about when what finish should I use here? It comes back to what you're looking to get out of the piece. Do you want to get all that color? Do you want a subtle change? And then
what is your vision? What is your vision for it? That's
what is
correct.
your vision? Yeah.
So Moises Chinnick, I think I got his name right. Chittick, Moises Chittick. Can Odies be applied over a white stain? I am a flooring contractor. I have used Odies already. Just wondered, does a whitewash pigment exist? Yes, of course. We have a whole system of a whole color system, and Moises, I would suggest you hop on YouTube and look at our live All About Color, and Matthew, I wish you could get up and start showing off some of your washes and colors if you want for Moises while I'm looking over some stuff. But yes, you can do all kinds of effects, Moises. Any color you want. You can do anything from a opaque stain matte finish to a opaque stain high gloss to a middle to a satin like he's got there. Or you can do a whitewash, transparent stain. You can do a brown wash. You can change the color of the whitewash, adjust it any way you want. We have a whole pigmented system that you can blend into the various finishes that we manufacture. So
there's our last live was all about color, going over all the stains and everything.
Yep.
Check it out on YouTube.
Good question, though. Check it out on YouTube, Moises. And also, you can give us a call, and we can hook you up with one of our tech representatives, Paul from Paul Galena and Matthew Hurdle. So Paul's the tech guy for flooring, me and Paul, and Matthew is general tech support, head of all tech support with the company, and him and I can help you with all other things as well. All right, so let's go here. I look where it makes the wood board beautiful, very crazy sheen. You got any whitewashes you can show him, Matthew? Or no.
I don't think I do, and I don't think I do down here. Not in here.
Okay, Tracy, you got some more questions for us? No.
No.
All right. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's go. In my view, Matthew, I want to let you go on and start talking about the butter.
Yep.
Or the wax. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think naturally, the butter is kind of the next product in line. Get that? I got Canadian labels over here, so it's the same wood butter as the American label ones, just a different label. So as I was mentioning before about the deeper an oil penetrates, the more color it brings out. So now the wood butter is, I guess I would kind of describe it as being it kind of sits right in between Odie's oil and Odie's wax. It's not just Odie's oil and Odie's wax mixed together. It's its own special proprietary blend of oils and waxes, but it's a very high concentration. And it is a standalone finish, can be used all on its own. You are going to use very, very little. We keep stressing very little. With the butter, we're going to stress that again. A little goes a long way. And it is going to reside a bit higher in the wood fiber compared to the oils.
I'm going to
Thus,
interject.
yeah.
I want you to keep going though. That jar of butter will cover over 1,000 square feet.
Oh yeah.
Over 1,000 square feet on white oak. It's insane. Okay, go ahead, Matt. To finish.
Yeah, it goes very, very far, and yeah, so residing a little bit higher in the wood fiber, thus giving you less of a color change compared to the oil. Now that's one difference. So if you have a piece of wood and you're like, oh, I don't want it to be quite so saturated with color, and you want it a little more subtle looking, the wood butter all on its own as a standalone finish is going to work great for that. We recommend familiarizing yourself with the oils first and understanding them and master them and understand how little product you need to use. Because if you're just jumping into the wood butter and you haven't even figured the oil out, you're going to screw up. You're going to use too much. So, but once you have the oil figured out, now you can kind of advance into using the butter, and then you'll really notice the subtle differences and the nuances between the two as standalone finishes. And you can use the wood butter over top of the oils to further enhance your look and feel. It's a different look. It's subtle, but it's different. Like James described it as a rounder looking type of finish, and it has a different glow. It absorbs and refracts the light differently than the oil. You take it from here, James. It's your
it gives you a nice glow. I actually kind of look at it as the difference between a tube amp and a regular amp. A digital amp, whatever you want to call it, the transistor, whatever you want, in sound. So it's got a different curve. The light has a different curve. It has a softer glow. It's a rounder glow and rounder feel. Even the tactile, the feeling of it, it's soft. It's kind of feels like silk. So that's another time when you would want to use that butter when the feeling is really important. When maybe like on a guitar or an instrument, a flute or something that you hold in your hand or even a bowl. Or that tactile feeling has it means a lot in some cases. So I can tell you right now, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew, your chair's got butter on it.
Not yet.
Damn. Wow,
not yet.
Got that nice. Maybe it's the way the light is showing on this thing. The chair is sitting because it's got that nice soft glow.
It does. I think. Yes, I don't know. A lot of my personal pieces, sometimes I'll do a video with it, and then I never end up doing another coat because it was good for the video. This does have a couple coats on it though.
You got me on that one. It does have a nice glow to it. But so the butter is going to give you that little softer glow. Great product. But there was something else I wanted to touch on with it. That's kind of important. It is halfway between an oil and a wax. That's why we call it butter. So it's not. You look at it, you're going to call it a wax. It feels like a wax. You apply it like a wax, but it has a very high oil content. So it's halfway in between our Odie's oil, and our wax. And then when you get in the wax side of our Odie's wax side of thing, that is a very traditional. That is a real wax and a very traditional wax recipe, but made with the components of Odie's that make Odie's so much different than anything else. The way the ingredients in our wax, the way the ingredients in our butter, the way they're prepared is what makes them completely a different animal than anything else on the market. Yeah, the Odie's butter is going to give you a nice softer glow and a real nice tactile feeling. Um, that and to be honest with you, the butter and the super pen and the oil are the most different finishes out on the market. There's nothing else out there like them. Um,
Even ones that may have the same kind of names, but they're not the
a lot of
same
people have copied
product.
our names. A lot of people have copied our names.
This has
You know,
butter
I
on it.
released a butter. You know,
James.
that next thing you know, everybody's trying to copy the word butter, furniture butter, and this butter and that butter. What's that, Tracy?
There's butter on this right
Yes,
here.
yes.
He said he put a coat of butter on
Yeah,
it.
it feels wonderful.
Yeah.
I love this piece.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got it right here still.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
and like you said, between the oil and the wax, you kind of get like the best of both worlds in one way, where you're getting it's like that. You're not.
The
It's
butter
not,
can be used a multitude of ways, and the other thing that happens with the butter, it's the finish I'll pick when I want to do what I call a micro build. I don't like talking about build, but because people take it the wrong way, they start thinking lacquer and polyurethane and varnish. It's different. It's a micro build. So if I want to start building on my finish and starting to get that look that it looks like it's really got a nice thick kind of, you know, it's got a not coating. It's like it's almost like a French polish type of look. And that the butter I can build upon that to get that French polish type of look. Not the amber. It can get the ambering of a French polish, but that nice, soft, smooth, and actually it can also work a little bit like a grain filler. Not a whole lot of grain filling, just a micro grain fill,
micro, yeah.
and it works really nice on end grain, believe it or not. So that butter is it's a fantastic finish. But once again, we're going to say it again. If you're new to the finishes, do not start there. I don't want you to buy it. I want you to just start with the Odie's oil and the Super Duper oil. The Odie's oil is going to give you some of the properties of the butter. It's going to start leaning you towards the feel of the butter and some of the look of the butter. But if you want to go even further, once you start understanding the Odie's oil and the Super Duper oil, and you want to take that soft glow and that micro build even further and enhance that tactile feeling, that's when you start getting into the butter. Now, once you've mastered the other finishes, you could use the butter as a standalone finish in its own right. It's fine. You can start using the butter on top of the other finishes. You can actually, in some cases, put some finishes over the butter to get a different effect.
That's right.
But I don't want you diving into that right away. Years ago, one of the things that happened is everybody got so excited about my products, they started buying all of them and started using everything.
I'm going to use this, a coat of this, a coat of that, a coat of that.
Yeah, we got some of these guys, these hardhead woodworkers that that are good at their craft, but they just think they can dive in and do all of it right away, and they wind up failing and they get frustrated. And I don't want that happening. I want people to have success. It's not about selling you the most amount of product that I can sell you today. It's not about making a quick buck off of you. It's about teaching you something new, enhancing your artistic abilities, and making you a better woodworker, a better artist, and teach and getting you literally, I hate to say it this way, once you start using Odie's the right way, you're pretty much captured because there's nothing else like it. And once you start using the Odie's oil finishes the right way, then you can start graduating into the butters and the super pens and the wax. The wax, I'm going to tell you, I'm not that worried about people diving in the wax pretty quick, as long as they understand to use almost nothing.
Almost nothing.
And we're going to start. Can we do a little demo of that tonight?
Yeah, I have my little cotton little cotton applicator.
Now I could talk for hours about the butter, guys. I could talk about hours about each finish, but if I do, some people are going to get into trouble because they're going to wind up trying all these crazy different things to use for. There are
a lot of different things
we are just scratching the surface. I'm trying to keep myself from talking about too much. about each product because I find that people wind up using them the wrong way. So let's hop on to the wax. The wax now, traditional wax recipe, very similar to a traditional wax. Use like an old paste wax. Those of you that are old enough to remember, the old paste waxes in the cans that we use on our cars and stuff. This is used very much the same way. Very dense. Often we get people, my wax is hard. It's too hard. There's something wrong. It's dried out, blah, blah, blah. It's not. It's supposed to be dense. It's a hard wax. And a hard wax is a strong wax. The sad truth is, a lot of these manufacturers, to appease the laziness of the masses, and I'm lazy myself, and the instant gratification thing of our whole world is into this whole instant gratification thing. I remember when I was a kid and I was really into waxing the cars and detailing the cars. That's what I did when I was a 9-year-old kid. I remember when, they came out with this newfangled squirt wax in a plastic bottle. And I remember looking at it and laughing like, this is a gimmick. Well, now all the waxes are in squirt bottles. It's ridiculous. Those aren't waxes, man. Those are something else. Most of those are waxes that have been watered down with solvent.
Yeah.
And they're weak waxes at that. The manufacturers made them squirt waxes to appeal to be easy. But they're really not that much easier than this. And they actually get to sell you more because you got to use a shitload of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So this is a traditional wax, the way wax is supposed to be. The harder your wax is, the harder the wax is going to be on the surface. This is made from the best of the best of the best. And you want to open a jar up and show them what it looks like? You have one there, Matthew?
Yep, it's over. I'll be right back.
One, but I know you have.
I have an open one here for sure.
So hard wax smells like citrus. Smells wonderful. It does not contain any toxic solvents. None of our finishes have any nasty solvents. The butter, the wax, the oils, all are made from food grade ingredients, and also they're all food safe. The butter smells like the Odie's oil, but the wax smells like citrus, much like the super duper oil. And show them how hard it is. Yeah. And that jar of wax is going to cover over 1,000 square feet again. Over 1,000 square feet. Crazy, hard to believe, but it's because it's nothing but the good stuff. And when those of you that are listening to the coverage matrices of these finishes, you need to understand each one of these finishes are ultra concentrated, nothing but the good stuff. So when you buy a 5-gallon bucket of polyurethane or some other finish or some oil finish or a gallon jug of some other oil finish, you're getting here, if you're buying a good version, a good upbringing, what you're getting here is the ultra concentrate, the stuff that makes those finishes work in some cases.
Yeah.
And the stuff in those 5-gallon buckets, they put like this much in.
Some of those
you're getting a whole jar of it.
A whole jar of it.
Why it's as effective as it is. And that's why it can go so far. Those other brand finishes are mostly solvent. Most wood finishes are about 80%, 70, 80% solvent. Up to 90, 95% solvents in a lot of water-based finish cases. Now, the better ones and some of the pseudo hard wax oils and stuff like that, they may be like 50% or 30%. We are 0%. Our wax has probably the highest solvent load of anything that we have, and that is pure food grade D-limonene that's in there, and it's still a very low concentration, below any VOC measurement in the industry. Go ahead.
Bearmaid is asking, Matthew, what cloth are you putting the wax in?
Yeah.
Okay. So wait. So we haven't gotten there yet.
So you want to show them?
He's going to show that in a bit.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, we're going to show that in a bit. All right. So we covered the butter and the wax. Now, the butter and the wax come in a dark version. Odie's dark butter. And it's dark. And then there's Odie's dark wax, which is not as dark as the butter. So when you're using the dark finishes and you want to get all the attributes of the waxes and the butters, you can use the dark butter and the dark wax. Pretty simple. And that, like I said, just like the super duper, just like the regular oil. So those are the base items of the system. Now, what's the difference between the wax and the butter? Well, once again, the butter is like halfway between an oil and a wax, but the wax is a traditional wax, and it's going to give you a much crisper look than the butter. It's a sharper, the way the light reflects off it has a tendency to give a little more sparkle. The butter is more of a soft glow. And once again, I'm going back to my art background and my fine arts and photography background. It's about the subtleties to help direct the piece towards what my original vision for the piece was. And sometimes you might change your vision. You might say, hey, I thought I wanted this to be a matte finish and everything, but I kind of want to step it up. And I actually kind of like it to be a semi-gloss, or what people call semi-gloss, or a satin. And I really want it to have that nice tactile feeling. And now, Matthew, I'm going to let you elaborate on how you would take somebody from just a regular matte finish to having something more of a satin with a nice, soft, tactile feeling. What would you do? And you can explain to viewers.
There's a number of things.
I'm going to check out from when you're doing this, because I trust you because I know you know what to do, and I'll be back in about 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there is no one way of doing that. There's a multitude of ways with just using the products alone. So you could do multiple or additional coats of just Odie's oil, just sticking with the one product. With each application of oil properly buffed on and buffed off, you are still going to get that slight micro build of finish. And I think it's important to define what micro build means. We're not like building layers like traditional film forming finishes where you're building a layer and a layer and a layer. The oil, the Odie's, it cross-links and bonds on a molecular level to the wood that you're applying it to. The wood is the catalyst, the oil is curing to it. It becomes one with the wood. Once you get the wood to the point of full saturation, which you can typically do with one properly applied coat, your protection and your durability, everything is there. Now, with each additional application of oil, the oil starts cross-linking and bonding to itself on a micro level. And with each additional application, you're micro-filling in the grain and micro-building upon the piece, and you're enhancing that sheen and that depth and that chatoyancy and that silky smooth feeling. And you can start to shift the way that piece looks and feels if you're using the oil, or maybe you're using the super duper on top, or if you're using the oil and then the butter, and then you could do the oil and then the butter and then the super duper on top. And they're going to give slight nuanced differences in the way that they look and feel. And then once that's all cured, and then you can kind of put the cherry on top and then put the wax on at the very end. And that's just one way of making changes to your finish just by using the products alone, additional coats and using them in unison together with the oil and the butter and the super duper. And of course, you can change the way your piece looks by micro abrading in coats, by the selection of the pad that you use, what the rating of the grit of the pad is, by burnishing it with the 4000 grit and taking something up to a very high sheen or high gloss. There's so many ways that you can manipulate the piece with the products themselves and with techniques, with abrasion and all these different things. It's really limitless, and you can take things up and you can bring things down and take them whatever direction you want.
Excellent, Matthew. Excellent. So I hope this clears up some of the questions. When to use what? It's not about when to use what. it's about your desired effect, what you're going for, what you want out of the piece. And like I said, if you're new to our products, please start with this with the super duper oil and or the Odie's oil. And you're gonna get you're gonna get the beginnings of, so if you use those two finishes in conjunction with each other, and you start understanding how to use them and when to use them with each other and when to put one over the other and how many coats of this or that, then you're going to start seeing what direction, what things you like about those two finishes, and then you can decide what direction you want to take your next pieces in. So let's say you're one of these people that just loves that soft, silky feeling, that tactile feeling of Odie's oil, and you really want even more out of it. Well, then you're a guy that's going to like that butter. You like that glow that it gives. You're the guy that's going to like the butter, like Danny Patnoff. He says, I love the butter. Almost all my pieces get one coat of Odie's and one butter. Because Danny's actually probably come to realize that, to appreciate that feel and that glow that the butter gives him. And that nice, subtle, relaxing sheen that the butter gives him. So you might find you like the look of the super duper oil. You like the look of the super duper oil over the Odie's oil because it's crisp, and it makes it a little brighter, and it actually steps out that sheen. Well, then you might be the guy that likes the wax, and you might find that you like to wax your pieces as your final touch. So this is like I said, you don't have to dive into all the finishes right away. I don't want you to. I want you to start with the base products. The other products are just a complement and to enhance the aesthetic of the oil.
I
And
think
that's it.
I think there's a thought that people have is like, to get ultimate protection and durability, I need to do a coat of this and a coat of that, a coat of that, and a coat of that. So that's not what those other
just
finishes
the oil, just the oil, just one of the oils is all.
If you're worried about protection and durability, Odie's oil, super duper oil, you don't need you don't need anything and above and beyond that for protection and durability.
We have furniture manufacturers that do one coat. We have a table manufacturer, like I said, talked about them last week. I mean, 5 years ago they were doing 1,000 tables a year. They do one coat, and they never have an issue, never have any claims, no problems, no nothing, because they know how to do it right. Now, do I want to put out tables with just one coat? Not necessarily. I'm going to put more on, because the aesthetic I like to go for. My personal preference is more for the aesthetic. Now, how can I say it? The super duper oil, you put 2 coats of super duper oil on, you're going to get all the durability you're really going to need. 1 coat of Odie's oil, 2 coats of Odie's oil, 1 coat of Odie's oil with super duper over that, all the durability you're going to need. Okay, once you start laying more coats on, it's strictly more about aesthetic. So it's not about durability at that point. Now we haven't talked about all the products yet. We're missing some.
Yep.
Pigment. What do we got? 25 colors, 26 colors?
26.
26 base colors. This happens to be, I just grabbed the red. Okay. So we have 26 colors. We have all the primary colors. Then we have all these little blended offshoot colors. But with those 26 colors, just with the primary colors, you can make any color in the spectrum. But for those of you that aren't color theory experts, we got 26, 27 colors where you can blend them to get an infinite amount of colors, any color in the spectrum.
Any color.
Literally. Any color you want, and any opacity of any color that you want. And the interesting thing is this pigment is so strong that you can get an opaque black with 1 coat. 1 coat. And those of you that are professionals or flooring installers that are watching, let's say you wanted to get a opaque black floor on white oak. Mrs. Johnson wants her white oak floor to look opaque black. She wants it black, jet black. And you were using polyurethane. Let's say you're a poly guy. to do that jet black right, you're probably going to have to use the company's pre-stain. Then you're going to have to use their black stain. Then you're going to have to, come back and do their first coat, their sealer coat. Then you're going to have to do their top coat, their second coat. Then you're going to have to come back and do your final third top coat. That's 5 layers of finish. And in a lot of cases, you might have to come back at least 4 times, sometimes 5. Who the hell wants to go back to the job site 5 times? So, I'm going back to cure. What's the cure time and all this stuff? Well, the reality is you could put 1 coat of Odie's or super duper oil with the black pigment in it and get an opaque black in 1 coat.
1 coat.
Come back 3 days, 4 days later after it's completely cured and put another light coat of super duper or Odie's oil over the top, seal it in, and you're done. You could just leave the 1 coat on and not do anything to it, and it's going to look fantastic. But you can also step that sheen up to, now, oh yeah, but the polyurethane one, I could do a high gloss. Well, you're still going to take your 5 coats, 4 to 5 days. But the Odie system, you can come in, put your coat down, come back after it's cured, a few days later on the black, or 4 days. Let's say it was 4 days. Come back, or 5 days. Let's say you come back a week later, or whatever, because you're letting them finish up the job site, letting them put the cabinets in and everything. You come back and you hit it with a 1,000, 2,000 grit, 4,000 grit foam pad. Let's say you stop sanding at 120 or 150 grit. That's fine. Before you put the black stain down, you come back after it's cured, hit it on your planetary sander with a 2,000 grit foam pad, and lay 1 more coat of oil over the top of it. You got a high gloss, and you did it in 2 visits to the job site, not 4, not 5, 2 visits to the job site. So, what's the cure time? Yeah, it's just as fast as anything else, but the reality is, with the opaque stain, the opaque paint one, those are going to be the ones that clear slower. But the reality is, you don't have to go back to that job site 3, 4, 5 times. You can get a high gloss opaque stain in 2 visits to the job site, which is unheard of.
A lot less labor, and it's a very nice, beautiful looking opaque.
Show them.
Well, yeah. Well, this is the this is the one that we did in the live the other day.
That's not a high gloss, though.
No, that's not the high gloss one.
You got the high gloss one there handy?
It's back there.
Show them. Blow their minds. And you did that in...
This one is like a bit of a ceruse.
So the pigments are unlimited. What you could do with our pigment system is unlimited, unparalleled in the industry. Nice glossy finish.
Very nice.
And that is, we call it iron coat. It's impossible to take the finish off unless you had a sharp, razor sharp knife. You can dent it. You can dent the wood, but you're not going to scratch the finish off. It's that strong because the pigment itself is metal. It's iron oxide.
Yeah.
And the white is titanium.
Very durable.
And everybody knows how durable titanium is and iron is. And they are color safe. I mean, they are UV stable. They will never fade. So this is our pigment system. Fantastic. We caught a lot of flack about this. Oh, can't you just mix it in with the oil? No, because when we give it to you this way, it's more versatile. It's less expensive for you. You get to meter out how much oil you want to use. You only need to mix up what you need to use for the job site. You don't have to carry around in your van or your truck or in your shop, 50 different cans of different colors that are mixed by this other brand that cost you $200 and something a piece. It's ridiculous. These little jars of pigment, what are they, $17?
Yeah, that's it.
And this little jar of pigment is going to go a long, long, long way. So that is the pigment system. And like I said, many colors, lots of versatility. If you're curious about the pigment system, go to our All About Color video on YouTube. The recordings are there, and actually you'll probably find some of these on our website pretty soon. Now, that's talking about the oils, the pigment system, and now we have the safer solvent. So our safer solvent, great product. This is food grade delimonene. This is not technical grade. This is not cheap garbage. This is not mixed with petroleum solvents. This is literally a flavoring. This is what they use to flavor, lime cakes, lemon gums, lemon sodas, all that stuff. If you like lemon lime and drinks and food, this is actually the essential oil from an orange and limes, from citrus. It is distilled. It is the terpene that comes out of citrus. And delimonene is a component you can find in grass. We have it growing in our grass here on the farm. You can find it in all kinds of plants. It is a component that's in a lot of plants, but citrus happens to have a lot of it, and that's where we get it. And this comes out of Florida as well. And those of you that are wondering where our ingredients come from, all that, we actually grow our ingredients here on our farm. Now, and we also get a lot of our ingredients from local farmers. So a lot of this stuff, these ingredients come from right here. So we know where they are, where they come from, and we are growing the ingredients ourselves as well, and producing the oils themselves. This citrus oil actually comes from Florida oranges. Really, oranges and lemons, Florida citrus, great stuff. And this is our replacement for mineral spirits, for naphtha, your aliphatic hydrocarbons, dearomatized distillates, whatever you want to call it. This is our replacement for toluene, xylene, mineral spirits, naphtha, all of it, and it is completely safe. Now, I don't advise you to huff it because it is a VOC, just like all essential oils. But, when you smell an orange, you're smelling this stuff. It's not going to hurt you. It will dry your skin out if you get it in your skin because it has it's a solvent. So it's a terpene. So it'll have a tendency to strip the fat out of your skin. It could irritate your skin if you have sensitive skin. I haven't really met anybody that it really bothers their skin very, very much. Maybe I'm the worst guy out there for it. I'm sensitive to everything. I may look like a tough guy, but I'm a big wimp when it comes to chemicals. I don't like chemicals. What's that, Matthew?
It's a good idea to wear gloves when handling with the solvent.
Yes,
Anyway,
you want to wear gloves. We advise you wear gloves when you're handling solvent. You want to have good ventilation because, like I said, it's a VOC, but very, very safe, amazing stuff. It's not cheap. It is expensive. This stuff is expensive, but I don't know what this bottle costs now. It's 30 something bucks.
I think it's more than that.
I forgot.
I'm sorry. I could look.
Forgive me.
I can look it up.
But great stuff, and you can use this to thin down the oils if you want to. But we don't advocate you thinning the oils, only in very rare instances. This is our cleanup for everything. This is a great way to prep your surfaces as well. It's $55 for this?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, it's market based. That's why.
That's a little. I think that's excessive, and I'm going to go look into it now. Okay. So great product and fantastic. So then we have our cleaner. And the interesting thing about our cleaner, we don't tell you have to use our cleaner because you don't. This cleaner is made from the citrus solvent. So it's delimonene again. Those of you that have used Gojo and like pumice in your wood shop, in your mechanic shop to get grease and stuff, or your Gooby Gone or the gum removers and stuff, the active ingredient in those things is delimonene. But this is a purer, cleaner, safer version of the delimonene. Okay, a lot of those companies will mix their delimonene with other stuff, with petroleum solvents. And this cleaner is made from the solvent, from the delimonene, with plant-based surfactants. Wonderful cleaner. It's not necessary to use this for our finished surfaces. You can just use soap and water. You can use vinegar and water. You can use ammonia and water. But if you want a great cleaner, this stuff works fantastic. And it has multiple different uses. It's a highly concentrated cleaner. So this is the
Very
concentrate.
concentrated.
This will make 100. This bottle will make 132-ounce bottles of glass cleaner. Actually, about 200 the way I
Maybe
mix it.
more.
I
Yeah.
like my glass cleaner to be much less. You can make 32 bottles of our 5% out of this, which is our all-purpose cleaner. You can turn this into a degreaser. You can degrease all kinds of stuff. You can wash your clothes with it. You can clean your floor with it.
It smells good.
Great product. I brought it and made it available to the public because it's a great. I love it, and it's a natural thing for us to have. It makes sense for us to sell it, and just wonderful stuff. So that concludes all the products. I think I covered them all the main products. And now I want to go ahead and look at some of the questions, and then we don't want to stay too late tonight. So anyway, Tracy,
We're 2 hours, or no, maybe that was counting from before. Yeah, no, we are 2 hours in now.
it doesn't. So Blanco, you don't need to use a solvent ever. You don't have to use it. So
No, you
after
don't.
I stand at 320, let's say before applying Odie's, do I need to use the solvent or it won't matter? No, you don't need to use the solvent. So, but the solvent we
Yeah.
use to fix a finish, like if somebody used too much finish, didn't get it all off, and now it's started to polymerize, and they're trying to take it off the surface. They're not going to get it off unless they either reactivate it with more oil or they use the solvent to strip away the excess. So the solvent is another versatile product, and you can make stains with it. I don't advocate for it all the time. There are cases when you can mix the solvent in with oil and make stains for different effects, or to complement a finish that you're already using to get it to cut in. But so there's a multitude used for all these products. Don't want to go over all of them right now. Actually, it would take us days to go over them all. But I do suggest you start playing with them. If you're already familiar with the oils, then I could say, if you're already familiar with the Odie's oil and the Odie's Super Duper oil, you could graduate into the butter or the wax now, or even the Super Pen, and start experimenting with those, and read up on how to use them and the different uses for them. You can even give us a call, and we'll be glad to help you with it.
Yeah, and there's how to apply videos for each of the products on the website too, done by James. They're great videos. They go over all the basic key points pretty in depth on all of those. Great resource to give yourself a freshen up on how to use any of those products individually.
So RJB wants to know if he can use the solvent to help strip off 110-year-old finish off of window casings. Yes, it'll help. It'll help. When I'm stripping a door or an old finish off, I'll usually start by sanding and abrading to get the finish off, and then I follow up with using the solvent to clean off the leftover. The solvent will also strip off old waxes. It will take a wax off the floor. Yes, it will. Definitely. So,
it's not going to work like a chemical stripper though, like taking off film forming finishes, but it all depends. But it's great for decontaminating and degreasing and all those types of things for sure.
the solvent. Blake wants to know if he missed it. We talk about the super cleaning concentrate. Yes, we did, Blake. If you want to go back and want to look at the recording, you can. But the super cleaning concentrate is pretty direct. It is made from the solvent, and it's all natural. It is safe, and it has a multitude of uses, from anything from washing your clothes to washing your dishes. Literally, it all depends on how you dilute it with water. And just like all the Odie's products, a little goes a very, 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 very long way. And just like all the Odie's products, less is more when it pertains to using the cleaner. So
I go through maybe 1 or 2 jars of that a year, but like I do all my laundry with it, clean the floors with it, clean the bathroom, clean the kitchen, clean the car, but everything.
1 tablespoon does a full size load of clothes.
I don't even use a tablespoon. I use less. I'm more down to like a teaspoon and a half is all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Danny Patnoff has another question. I remember seeing a video of Matthew mixing solvent and Odie's oil and pigments to make a translucent stain.
This was
What's the
super
advantage of
duper.
doing this instead of just mixing super duper oil and pigment?
That was pre super
I'm gonna
duper.
let you answer that, Matthew.
The for making a translucent stain.
Pre super
Yeah, he
duper.
made a translucent stain. Probably was it pre super duper? It was probably
I bet it
pre
was.
super duper.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we didn't have the super duper out onto the market yet, and you could mix the oil in the regular Odies and it comes out great. But there are some times you would want to mix it with the solvent actually for a faster cure, for more of a matte finish, or to cut into an old stain that you put down or that you
Yeah.
want to change the color. The nice thing about our system is you can adjust the color. So let's say Mrs. Jones told you she wanted her piece or her floor to be this color brown, and she loved it when you made the sample, and then when you got it on the piece or the floor, she decided that brown was too red and she wanted you to tune the color up and make it a little cooler tone or a little on the greener side than the warm side. Well, you can actually mix up a cooler toned stain or a greener stone tone stain, and put the solvent, cut it 50-50, and that solvent will help you cut into the previous color that you had already put down, especially after you put like Odie's to seal it in. So it actually will help you. You can shift your color, and which is amazing because you can't do that with other finishes. Most of the time you got to sand them off and start over. So it gives you ultimate versatility. There you go, Matthew. Talk about
Yeah.
that. What do you want?
So this was the original color of this board, and in the live we did a few days ago or last week, we shifted it to this color by making a solvent-based version of the stain to help cut and etch into the existing finish to change the color. I
Those of you that are new, I don't want you going crazy with everything just yet. So
no baby,
you gotta
baby
crawl
steps.
before you walk. Baby steps, okay? And don't think oh, it's too limited, it's too confusing. No, just with the two oils, the base oils, you're gonna get you have more versatility than any finish on the market.
Absolutely.
Hundreds of
And
times more versatility than any
yeah,
finish.
as for the stains, the go-to is going to be your super duper oil for the most part. That's one of my favorite finishes to blend the pigments with to make a nice, easy to use wipe on, wipe off type of stain. You can use the pigments in all of the finishes. You can use them in
Every
the
single finish.
oil, the butter, even the wax, the solvent-free super pen. But you don't really want to just get right in there, master it in the super duper oil and the Odie's oil, and then you can go outside of there and start doing ceruses and patinating waxes and all kinds of different things.
Got a
Ultimate,
lady raising her hand over here. Hold on a second. What would you like to say,
Well,
Tracy?
it's kind of about
Speak up. You got to speak
it's
loud.
about what you guys are talking about. So Creations by Jeff says, does the opaque stain darken some after it cures? And then he said also, I mean, after the solvent flashes off, I guess. So he's
Well, so
like,
Creations by Jeff, don't use the solvent when you're making the opaque stain. No, don't use it.
well, he's been
Use the
he's been
super
doing
duper oil to make your opaque stain, and it's not really going to darken.
he's
No,
been with us for a long time, James.
I'm just
That's
going to
why.
yeah, but I want him to
Yeah, go with the super duper.
go with the super duper because if you're not looking to fix something, or you have some issue because you have to use a solvent. If you're not in a situation where you have to use a solvent because you got some strange issue, and I don't, there are a few reasons why you might have to, but very very rare. You're going to get a much better color and better saturation and a more pleasant look out of the super duper oil and the pigment than you will if you mix it, cut it 50-50. It just are. Okay. It's going to have more luster, more sheen, more opacity, and actually it's going to be a more durable finish. Matthew and I had this discussion the other day, and I made him get a solvent based version of the pigment, opaque stain, and a super duper oil version, and I made him do a durability test, and I proved to him that the super duper version is actually stronger and it's far more beautiful. So there's really you know, don't go for the solvent every time. There are people that have been doing that, and it's not necessary.
Is it going to
Good.
darken though? Because his other question
What's
was,
going to darken?
will the opaque stain darken
No, it's not going to darken.
afterwards?
No.
Okay.
Well, it all depends what you mean by that. You know, some pieces as they're flashing off depends on the color. Some of them might appear a little lighter when they're dry. Might appear a little darker when they dry, but the color isn't going to darken or change itself.
Well, you might lose reflectivity, especially when you use the solvent-based version. The solvent-based version is going to wind up being a matte finish, so you're going to use reflectivity. So yes, you might feel that the tonality has changed.
Change.
It's the way the light reflects off it. Go ahead, Tracy.
Andrew J says, "What's the best way to freshen up wood floors done with Odie's original?" And he says small white pigment was used.
He wants to freshen up the floor.
And that had some. I guess he must have had a small amount of white pigmented.
He did a pigmented floor,
Sounds like it.
and he wants to freshen it up.
Mhm.
Why is he needing to freshen it up? That's what I'm curious. Because to be honest with you, most of the time our finishes don't need any freshening for like a decade or more. It's crazy. Okay, so one of the things I do have to say is don't get tied up into believing that you have to refresh an oil all the time. Especially Odie's, you don't. It's not the finish you need to refresh all the time. That is a thing, a fault or a paradigm, whatever that belongs to our competitors. But if you find that you do need to refresh it, just the regular Odie's oil
Yeah,
will be just fine.
that's what I thought. Okay.
And
Just the regular oil and use it like a wax. Or you can use the super duper oil, but very little.
He says, "I have 5 kids. They're rough on it."
That's okay.
I would be
You might
curious.
find, what's his name, the guy?
And Andrew J.
Andrew J. You might find that it just needs a good cleaning.
A good cleaning, and I would like to know what cleaner that's been used on the floor,
Yes.
or any
Andrew,
kind of
what
oil
cleaner-
soap, or any kind of this or that.
Yeah, good question, Matthew. That's a very good point. What cleaner have you been using? I do not advocate for you to use polyurethane type cleaners like the famous brands that you see in the store, the big brands. Those cleaners that are for polyurethane are actually can be damaging to the Odies because some of them contain urethanes, and then others contain ether. So when it goes to cleaning an
Says
Odie's,
nothing but water so far.
yeah, so he probably needs to do a good deep cleaning.
Yeah.
So tell him to do vinegar and water. So
10
one
to
part,
1.
I'm sorry, 10 parts water, 1 part vinegar, or even milder, just a cup of vinegar and a gallon of water. That's going to clean your floor. Ammonia and water as well.
Steam cleaner.
Steam cleaner, actually, believe it or not, most wood floor guys are going to cringe and go, "Oh my God,
No,
you're not
it
supposed
works.
to eat the vinegar,
Great.
the ammonia, and the steam cleaner." With Odie's, you don't have to worry. You just don't. We use a steam cleaner on our floor. So steam cleaner work, and also or our cleaner. You can buy our cleaner. That'll cut any grease or dirt that's in the floor. Most likely, your floor is just dirty. To be honest with you,
This actually has happened before.
because I've got thousands of floors, thousands. I mean, in my history, I manufactured a lot of floors, well over 1,000, probably over 2,000, and then I've also imported and distributed and sold, and my installer crews have put down, I can't countless numbers of floors finished with Odie's, and historically it takes about 10 years before if somebody ever calls for a refresh or a touch up. So it's usually about cleaning if you're finding that. So but if you do find it needs to be oiled, you could just use the Odie's.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful. You don't want to constantly be putting oil on your floor. Then that causes more problems.
Just a good cleaning.
A good cleaning.
Yeah.
A good cleaning, yeah, and like if you have hard water or this and that too, like there's many things to take into account.
Look, we have it on our floor in our warehouse. We drive forklifts on it, cars on it, all that, and you can't get the finish up. You have to wear the wood away to wear the finish away. You have to wear the concrete away to wear the finish away, because it's not a top coat. It's not a film forming finish. This is a structural, penetrating, cross-linking oil. And we're the only company out there that calls ourselves a structural oil, because that's what it is. It becomes part of the structure of the surface you apply it to. It literally cross-links to the wood fiber. It cross-links to the wood molecules. So the oil molecules and the wood fiber, the molecules, the cellulose fiber, actually become one. So for a desk tabletop wood surface, this is from Fountain Pendulum. For a desk or tabletop surface finish with Odie's, can clients freshen up the finish with tung oil since Odie's is tung oil mix? No. You can, but I don't advise it. And I really don't advise you having your customers freshen your finish up, because there's no reason for it. The only reason they would have to do any touch up is if they damage the finish. If they put a big gouge or scratch in it. Okay, the finish doesn't disappear, it doesn't evaporate, it doesn't get tired and old like other oil finishes, because it becomes part of the structure of the wood. So there really isn't a reason for them to freshen it up. I get that question: how do I freshen the finish myself at home years later? They're going to find they really don't need to, and if they do, at a certain point, it's just they just destroyed it. Whatever, something might have happened. Whatever, you just a little bit of Odie's oil. And the interesting thing about it is why buy a gallon of tung oil or even a quart of tung oil when you can have a 9-ounce jar of Odie's oil that can be used all over the house? You can use it to, touch up plastic. You can use it to refresh and, finish leather, to freshen up your leather or make your leather purse look beautiful. Your shoes. You can use it down your car. You can do your car seats. You can do your plastic dashboard in your car. You can do all the black plastic and black surfaces on the outside of your car and make them look beautiful and fresh again. You can use it for squeaky hinges. You can use it to freshen up your finish on your floor, whether it's Odie's or not. You can use it to freshen up your countertops, your whatever you need. You can use it on granite. You can use it on concrete. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. So how many things you can use it on? So, okay. Any other questions that you think I need to touch, because we're here a long time.
Yeah. Brent Wells just asked a quick question about recommended Odie's to use over the alcohol-based dyes on wood.
What's this now? Speak up. Say it again.
Brent Wells on YouTube. What Odie's do you recommend using over alcohol-based dyes on wood?
Any of them.
Yeah, that's what.
Any of the Odie's finishes. Good Start would be Super Duper or Odie's Well. Now, I'm gonna get a little controversial. I'm gonna say, instead of using alcohol-based dyes, just use the Odie's pigment system. You're gonna get a better effect, unless there's some effect that you're going for with the alcohol that you can't get with us. But I don't really know of any.
The thing about those dyes, they're not
they're not UV stable. They fade over
not
time.
stable. They fade over time, and they have those types of issues.
Yep.
What's it called? Light fastness. They don't have a good light fastness, I think. So
Angie's been sending a lot of people to us, because you got several people here saying Angie from Transcendent Furniture Gallery sent me.
Angie's
I saw it on a
amazing.
video. A lot of people on here.
A lot of people that I have talked to or engaged with have been sent have learned about Odie through Angie, for sure.
And Angie's an awesome lady. I'd like to meet her one day when I come to visit you, Matthew, because she sends us a lot of customers and she won't even accept anything from us.
Yeah.
She doesn't ask for anything.
And she does amazing.
You want to watch a true influencer, a real one that is a genuine person that's not out to sell you a bunch of garbage. Angie is the person. She's amazing, because she's really all about her craft, and she's not one of these people that's pushing product for money.
Yeah,
we come across a lot of them like that, and we tell them no. We don't. They don't like us because we just tell them no. We have like 1 or 2 guys that we work with because we know they're good people. That's it. And Angie's a really good lady, but she won't even accept anything from us. I try to get you to give her stuff, and she won't take it.
No, I know she'll come and buy stuff for me, and I'm like, I'll invoice you later, and I just don't invoice her. I want to pay you.
Good for you, because she's a really good lady, and I've had you reach out to her and say, look, what can we do for you? How can we help you?
Yeah,
because she helps us.
She's blushing.
So thank you, Angie. Oh, you're watching. Good. She's
Yeah,
watching. Good for
she's
her.
here.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Thank you
for
very
people
much,
that don't
Angie.
know who we're talking about, Angie on
You're
YouTube.
the real Angie. You're the real deal, Angie. You're the real deal. I got to tell you, our marketing director a few years ago, was in love with all your stuff, and I didn't know who you were. That was a few years back, and I was hesitant to even engage because we've seen so many influencers that are just out there to make a buck off you, and you are definitely not one of those people. You are actually the real deal, and we are really really proud to having you using our finish. So. Um, that's a good person. So
Transcend Furniture Gallery for anybody that's wondering what her account is.
yeah,
Transcend Furniture
and
Gallery.
she
Yeah.
does great work. Really nice work.
Restoration work and bringing old beaten up pieces found at the side of the road or from the thrift stores and stuff and bringing them back to truly beautiful pieces that are going to last a lifetime again.
Well, one of these days we'll have to fly her down here and do a something with her, a piece with her or something. Have her come down and let her take a little break or something. And you can come maybe one of these trips when you come down, you bring her down with
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
you. So, all right. Any other questions? What is the main difference between the Odie's oil and the Super Duper oil? Shane,
Watch
did you?
the beginning of this video once we're done.
Yeah, you have to watch the video. That was the first thing we discussed.
Two
Um,
hours ago.
Yeah, 2 hours ago. I don't want to go another 2 hours. Well, I really appreciate everybody joining in. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. If there's something that's really that we didn't cover, I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to just put a weight out or put a hand up so you can get your question, or we'll give you time to get your question out. But I want to tell everybody we really appreciate you all tuning in, and Matthew and I have been enjoying doing these. This is one that's a little difficult to keep short, and it's a little difficult to cover every single basis because we just barely scratched the surface of the uses of products. We just wanted to give you guys a basic overall vision of what you got here, and once you start diving into this, you're going to see that the sky's the limit, and it's amazing.
Unlimited possibilities, complete freedom of creative
So
expression.
Matthew, you used to be a customer, and back in the day, you were like, but I need epoxy for this. I need a film forming finish for this, or I need this or that. Now that you learn the system over the years, and even when you like working with softer woods like redwood, even or it's something that might have been, that you felt was like a little punky or everything. I kind of, I got all over your case about it years ago. Stop using that epoxy to harden things. You know, Tell them what you learned. You learned that there's pretty much not anything you can't do with this finish system that you were doing before.
Yeah, no, there really isn't. Dude, I've used almost every finish under the sun. I've been woodworking for 30 years. I had my own spray booth and sprayed finishes for like 18 years and lacquers and polyurethanes, conversion varnishes, all the things that, Italian and German and all the fang-dangled big name brands. And it did take me a while to get out of that paradigm, which I desperately wanted to get out of at nearing the end of doing all that stuff that I was doing. And it took me a while to get my mind completely away from that thought process and transitioning to Odie's. But now that, well, I've been Odie's guy for 9 years now. I'll
Yeah.
never
So
use anything else. It does absolutely everything I have that I would need, and so much more than what I had been able to achieve with those prior finishes. And man, if you get a wood that's so punky that you need to fill it up with plastic, you're probably better off not using that piece of wood anyway. But for my softer woods and the redwoods and all those things, I use Odie's as the densifier. It actually densifies and hardens that wood in a much more natural way, in a way that for longevity, it's not going to break down and deteriorate and turn muddy and yellow and amber and do all these other kinds of things that are problematic to those other types of finishes. Odie's really does do it all. It is a game changer. And I'm not saying that just because I work with Odie's and I'm friends with James, like as a woodworker that's been in the business for a long time, that has used everything. I hear a lot of people they want to kind of want to be like everybody gets a trophy. There's a place for everything. There really there isn't
Some of
sometimes.
those
Like,
finishes don't belong in the landfill.
yeah,
Okay, because they poison the aquifer and the planet. Some of those finishes shouldn't even been, brands out there shouldn't even be made, like the ceramic graphene coatings. Literally, some of them are just a crime.
some of
That's
them are just a crime, and in cases, uh, most of those finishes are planned obsolescence. They are not going to last for the long run. They're going to degrade your piece. You're going to have to strip it. You're going to have to refinish it. Subject yourself to poison again, again, and again. And why does there have to be a place for that? I don't think there has to be a place for that.
no,
You
no.
know.
Finishes aren't people.
So yeah,
We're done.
Yeah, some of them aren't even finishes. Okay, I think
some
we're
of them
done
can't even
tonight.
call finishes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're done tonight. I don't want to. We can talk and talk.
We could go on James and I have had personal conversations about all these things
Hours
for
and
hours,
hours,
for
hours.
multiple days a week. So, we
This is Buster. If anybody wants to know who this is my buddy Buster.
he's an awesome dog.
Yeah, this was Odie's buddy too, and Odie passed away last year.
July.
Well, last July. Well, not last year, but July.
July.
Buster, we rescued Buster last October,
Yep.
2 Octobers ago, I guess. Yeah, great dog, another great dog. Very much a lot like Odie, but in a different way, and much bigger,
He is much
much
bigger.
bigger.
I guess I would like to ask for anybody that's still watching, submit any ideas that you have that you would like James and I to discuss or to discuss in
Why
future
don't we give the people
questions
that
you have.
are let's give the people that are left over, since we're done and we could take a few more minutes. Let's give them a little tip. Why don't you show them the applicator thing that I did for you? I
Yep.
showed you what to do. And for those that want to learn how to, have a self-regulating applicator that doesn't allow you to put too much oil on.
You want me to like
Well,
finish?
they can go watch the Instagram post you put out today and see it. But you can show them. You want to show them? Are you able to show them, or is it too difficult? Because I don't have everything here in front of me.
I don't think it's too difficult. I can just join from my phone and set it up, and I can wax a piece. It's not hard.
Okay.
Let's see. You'll have to give me a second. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do it right. I can do it right here.
And thank you, Danny, too. But Matthew's going to show you guys a little trick if you want to stay. It's a nice little tip. It's something I took for granted. It's interesting. I've been doing this so long that I take a lot of it for granted. That I think people, some things that are just common sense to me because I've been doing it for so long. I feel like sometimes I forget to share it with others because it's like, okay, well, how come you didn't know that? You should know that. But the reality is, like, simple little thing like this little applicator. It's what I used to do way back in the day, and then when I started using the or the non-woven pads, or even steel wool, I kind of for the public to teach the public how to use our finish for readily available stuff. I kind of disregarded a little applicator thing that I used to do, and I kind of revisited it this week, and boy, it does solve the issue of people that are using too much oil. So basically, what we're doing is we're it's an old technique. My grandfather used to show me, and my dad showed me how to do it. My wood shop teacher showed me how to do it. Everybody, even my brother, he's probably watching right now. You just take a 6 inch by 6 inch or 5 inch by 5 inch square of fabric, and you put your finish in a little ball inside of it, whether it's on a non-woven pad or another rag, and then you twist the corners up and twist them together, tie them up or whatever you want, and you got a little ball where you're applicating the product. You're applying the product. Go ahead, Matthew. Why don't you show us?
Yeah, I just got to get one of I gotta mute this one.
No, Blake, you didn't miss the contest with our customers using Odie's. In fact, the contest hasn't even started yet. So it will be out soon. We're a little slow moving. We got a lot going on. Actually, that contest, I had asked the guys to do that contest about a year ago, and I think it's taken them this long to put it together.
Is that echoing on your side?
Yes, it is.
How do I turn that off?
You got to turn one of your mics off. Okay, good. There you go.
Can we hear him?
Can you hear me, Matthew? There he goes. Matthew, we don't hear you. You know that.
That's a cheesecloth?
I
No.
have to turn. I have to
There you
turn
go.
that on then, and then I have to turn this one off somehow.
There you go. So it's not cheesecloth. You could do it with cheesecloth. The old school way of doing it with waxes was cheesecloth, but with Odie's, you're going to want to use either the non-woven pad or a rag. It depends on the finish you're using, and we're going to do one for each finish. He's just showing you how to do the wax right now. Okay.
Okay.
So you can hear me now.
Yes. Go for it.
So, I know it's going to be a little echoey. I can't figure out how to change
That's
that.
fine. It's not echo. It's fine.
Cheesecloth, a little bit of wax wrapped up, tied off.
Yeah, you
And
can use a
then-
t-shirt.
You just work it
So
in.
So the cheesecloth, will be a little too porous in some ways because you'll squeeze too much out in some instances. So you can double wrap it, triple wrap it, quadruple wrap it, or you can just use a t-shirt. But Matthew's going to show you, those of you that aren't familiar with our wax, how little you really use.
So I just did half of the board so that you can see. Let's see if we can see it applied there.
That's very little wax, guys. Very little. Just enough just to haze the surface.
Can you see it even on there?
Yeah, a little. I can see it. Yep, I see it.
I shouldn't have picked such a shiny
just
piece.
a tiny bit to haze the surface. And then that wax, you're going to want to let it set up for about 90 minutes or more, and then buff it off. And like
That
Matthew
will go very, very, very far. The amount of wax that's in there, I'll be able to do multiple pieces with that. Many, many pieces.
And the nifty thing about it is you can stick that little wad back in the jar,
Yep.
put the lid on, and use it for your next project. For the butter, you're going to want to use the t-shirt material because the butter actually, once it starts friction the heat, it starts melting and really coming through. So you might want to double or triple your t-shirt material up, your fabric up, and to put that on. And then the oil, the same kind of application. You could do a non-woven pad inside of a non-woven pad, and that will regulate the oil coming out. It's common sense, but we'll show those later on. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining. I just wanted to give them that little tip there, Matthew, before we left. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And Matthew and I might be on tomorrow night, or even Friday night. We might do another one where we're demonstrating those little applicators and applications for those that may be bored tomorrow night or Friday after all the company, after they ate so much turkey and food. That's it. All right. Well, Matthew, we're going to go, or are you going to show them something else? I think we're ready to leave. Your mic's off. Mic's off.
There we go. You can hear me now.
Yep.
Yeah, so that you can, like James was saying, you can do this technique with the oil, the butter, the wax. This is the butter. I have a piece of non-woven pad wrapped inside here, which the butter is on the pad. But for the dark butter, because it's a little looser than the regular Odie's butter, I double wrapped it with 2 layers of cotton rag. So you have to make some adjustments. The oil, you can actually just wrap a pad in a pad and actually use the pad as the actual thing that you hold. And we'll be showing all that. That could be a whole little live demonstration that we just do in a video.
And for
so
flooring installers, I mean, we can show you some things. I might even have a trick for you for the flooring guys.
this is it's a really great way to regulate and make you realize, especially with the butter and the wax, how little product is required to actually, to finish the piece.
Yep. All right, I'm ready to go home.
Yeah, me too. Thank you everybody for joining yet again. Another 2.5 hours of Matthew and James live. Odie's Oil.
I don't know how people can sit through this. I really don't.
But they do.
All right. All right. Like I said, I take it for granted, but whatever. All right, Matthew. Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm going to cut it off over on Instagram and then come back over here. You can cut out. I'll get it from here. Thanks for joining, everyone. We'll see you out here on the next one.
Bye-bye. Deck applications. We'll do that on one day too. One day for them.
I guess I can turn this off.